Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 6, 2023 meeting of the Ashland Select Board. This meeting is being live streamed through WACA-TV. Okay, I guess we'll start with citizens' participation. So if anyone wishes to address us, if you're on Zoom, use the raise hand function. I see Mark. Is anyone else here for citizens' participation? So Steve, why don't you come up and make your statement? Go ahead.
Sure. So, as you know, I was here about a month ago, 2 meetings back, with a couple concerns at my property. I invited people in this board to come look at the facts and review some information. Nobody took me up on that. I also invited the planning board to do the same. I had one planning member review the material, send an email indicating the plans didn't include the extent of work that was done on my lot, and apparently that was shut down by town council, and an email came from Peter. So I don't understand why. I'm here. I see your mission statement for public participation. I don't understand why it's so difficult to get people to look at some documents and discuss an issue, but apparently in this town it continues to be another month gone by. The school's now open. The work's not all done, but nobody has taken the time or the invitation to sit down and look at the material and have a rational discussion about what's going on. So I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I would like to get an update as to why the town has not taken the opportunity to address these issues. I talked to my neighbor before coming over here, and I understand same exact silence is going on with my neighbor. Right. So it's not just my property or my issue. It affects other, not large number of residents, but other residents are similarly affected and are being ignored. Okay. So that's what I'm interested in finding out.
Thanks, Steve. So let me, so this is the second time you've come here and raised these issues. Is there anyone here who cares to respond or set out? Okay, Claudia?
Yeah, you know, Steve, I did send you an email, I think one of the times that you emailed us and just explained that I would very much have liked to have been able to have a conversation with you and a discussion, but because the first email correspondence we had with you, there, you know, you were threatening, you know, legal action, and at that point, I felt like I was not in a position to be meeting with you in any way, shape, or form. But I am someone who is always in favor of having conversation with people, and you know, I'm sure there were important things for us to listen to. But I think when we start off on that foot, I know for me, anyways, I think that I can't then go
I don't recall your email, so if you can remind me of your email. I was here a month ago. I don't have any emails from you. And maybe you're talking about years ago, but I have nothing from any board member other than one planning board member in the last month.
I didn't respond because I don't have the expertise to deal with what your issues are, but I would hope that there's a procedure that the town has to address and resolve this one way or the other.
Other than getting letters from town council that apparently came to me, but not my other neighbors. My other neighbors told me they weren't similarly getting bogus letters, but they have an unresolved issue. So I talked to them literally at 6:30 tonight in one case, and they're just waiting to find out what the town's going to do, because the town is trying to move a boundary that's existed for 70 years. That's one of the issues. They also have property damage in their building, as do I, and everybody's pointing the finger at somebody else. So town included, town sent a letter saying they weren't responsible due to, you know, what is it, the King's rule and presentment. I think it's been presented, but even if that's the case, you know, somebody needs to take ownership of figuring out who's responsible and getting the repairs done. I shouldn't have to file a lawsuit to get repairs done. You know, that's not constructive. So I just like people to look at the damage, understand what happened, then they can inform each other as to what a good path is. But right now, nobody's even interested. So that's kind of my concern.
Okay.
I sent that email to you on August 21st after you had sent one again to us, a second email on August 20th, and I just forwarded it to you.
I'll look for it. Maybe it's in my junk folder, but if you sent one, I did not see one. It might have. Thank you.
She sends out a lot of emails. Michael, is there anything you'd care to say procedurally or address, you know, like...
Not at this point.
would it be of any help if Steve followed up with you about a procedural question or what the next step is, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's really not in our jurisdiction. It's school property. It is a school building project, who the contractor now has control of the property right now for at least a short while. I think, you know, Steve, you presented a case. I think there's ample evidence, you know, that supports what Paul and Lisa have been telling you. Obviously, if there's a disagreement about that, it goes through legal methods, or legal channels. Nobody wants to go down that road, but
Okay. It's very easy. Put the fence back where it existed, and then we'll all be happy, at least on
yeah,
the
but
fence issue.
I don't think where the fence was. I'm not going to get
As
into
I
it.
so
understand
let's-
it, I don't
okay.
think they even intend to put the fence back in a
So
boundary.
I'm not gonna
They
get
intend to
From
put
what
it
I'm,
back-
so it sounds like you
Yeah.
should be corresponding with town council.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
okay.
I
And
don't
we
know.
appreciate you.
Town council has told the contractor not to correspond. I did meet with the contractor shortly after I was here. I made sure my signs were at the line of the existing prior fence, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't misaddressing the issue from town council about
Right.
being over the prior line, you know, within
All right,
any
Steve, I will,
inches. So
I
we
will,
did take care of that.
I will have a discussion with town council, just satisfy myself about
No,
what's going on.
I'd
But
be
I
happy to
can't
shoot-
give you any advice. It sounds like you've been told to correspond with the town council, so I suggest you do that.
I haven't been. I've just been, I had an officer sent to my house after the no trespass was served. They showed up at my house, arguably in violation of the no trespass, because they didn't have a legitimate purpose other than to serve a letter from town council. That happened. I've spoken to the chief. I understand the chief's going to ensure that doesn't happen again.
Good.
But as far as resolution, I haven't heard anyone with an ear that's even interested in looking at the documents. So,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Mark,
No, I think Paul is there now. Paul Gustafson is there. Yeah, you want to jump in?
well, should we
We
just
have-
finish
yeah,
with
it-
Mark? We're going to have to
Well,
open and
except we
close.
have a hearing at 7:10.
I think we'll have to do that anyway. Why don't we finish with Mark and then do what we need to do, get Paul in. Go ahead, Mark. He's the last of the public comment.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't stepping on anybody's toes by,
right? Sure.
by not speaking and speaking out of turn. Good evening, Mark Sony, 49 Hawthorne Road. Again, to town manager. Did he get my bunches of emails again today?
Yeah, Mark, I counted 12 today, I think.
Jeez.
And I think you're on the right track with things, and I appreciate the enthusiasm. I don't think I'm going to be able, or the comprehensive plan members are going to be able to go through that many emails at a given time. So I would suggest maybe just be a little bit more judicious and selective of what you send forward. And then also, a lot of people have some hesitation on clicking third-party links just because of, you know, spam and phishing and things like that. So just be careful of forwarding things like that. Those might not get read, or they might end up in spam.
Would that be the same as being the thoughts of maybe the comp plan people too?
I haven't talked to all the comp plan people, but
You
I've
wanna
talked
say
to a
something,
couple.
Randy?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I can speak for myself, Mark, and while I appreciate you, like Michael said, the enthusiasm and wanting to be engaged in this whole process, like Michael said, I don't click on links that people send me. I've had bad experiences, so you know, my personal perspective is I would love for you to use that email address to ask questions and you know, be engaged with us. I would probably say if you can reduce the amount of the links that you're sending to us, that would be a good thing.
Now, that would come up to the question I asked before, and the last couple of meetings, asking, does people on Zoom get a chance to participate?
At the comp plan meetings?
So we don't have a
Yes.
public participation section of our comprehensive plan meetings. We have as you know, we have 29 people in the committee itself, so it's a lot of folks. And we do have Zoom participation for the committee members. And Zoom is really, we like to be able to have hybrid meetings so that we can reach a larger audience, but I'm not sure at this point if there's time for public participation on Zoom for our meetings. Yolanda?
I would also say this, Mark, that there will be plenty of opportunity for public input and involvement in the comprehensive plan as it moves forward. There's going to be subcommittees, there's going to be special listening sessions, there's going to be all kinds of work once we get the consultant on board. So I know you really want, you're excited about this and you want to participate, but give us a second and give us, a little time to get the committee really moving forward and get a plan in place on how we're going to do things, and then participate as we are asking more involvement as we do specific questions and sessions.
Okay.
And by answering it that way, and how you all say that you're fearful of third-party emails, these are not third-party emails. These are straight from the government, federal government, and their branches in the committees that they have in Washington and the other places, but it's definitely not third-party. If it was third-party, I would never send it, because I know the situation that it could be like a hack and so the spyware and stuff like that.
Sure.
This has
Hey,
nothing-
Mark,
this
excuse
is
me,
what-
we've got to open a public hearing at 7:10. So are you, I hate to cut you off, but are you finished now? We can come back to you, but it'll be some time after the hearings.
Come back to me sometime.
Okay,
after-
all right, thank you, Mark. Okay, it's being 7:10. We're going to open, we have a public hearing. I intend to open it, but then we'll suspend it for a few minutes to meet with someone who has to come and go. So I appreciate your folks who are here for the Fish and Game. Who's that? Are they? Yeah, if you would just allow us, great, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to read the legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Select Board will conduct a hearing regarding an application for an all-alcoholic beverages license. A liquor license request is from Ashland Fish and Game Incorporated. Would be an additional license at this location. The applicant currently has all-alcoholic beverages liquor license for their main building, which provides service to the bar and rental room. The new license would provide service to the pavilion located near the softball field. This is at Ashland Fish and Game, 3 Ponderosa Road, Ashland, Mass. A public hearing will be heard on the matter at the Ashland Town Hall, 101 Main Street, on Wednesday, September 6th at 7:10. You may attend in person or via Zoom. Parties wishing to be heard in this matter should appear at the time and place indicated above. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Select Board's office, Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. Signed, Robert Scher, Chair, Select Board. So I open this public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
you with us? Good, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Motion to suspend the public hearing for about 5 or 10 minutes while we bring forward another item.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of suspending the public hearing, say aye.
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 Great. Okay, the public hearing's suspended, and we're going to discuss, we're going to meet with Paul Gustafson, who I see is on Zoom. Paul, I think you're still muted, if I can read that.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay.
Can you hear me
Great.
okay?
Yep, we can hear you now. So, I don't know, Michael, did you want to say anything to introduce this subject, or?
Yeah, so Paul, as you know, is the owner of 433 Chestnut Street, otherwise known as the Hall House, and was selected through an RFP process to purchase and renovate the home at 433 Chestnut Street. And as part of that whole process, first there was a set of preservation restrictions that were developed, and that was agreed to, and the board had agreed to that as well. Over the course of the construction period, we ran into a few snags. We came back here for a couple of meetings to discuss it and figure out some solutions, which resulted in a couple of different obligations. that are outside of the preservation agreement, but are nonetheless important. And so I will say, what we're trying to accomplish tonight is basically a sign-off from the board that the preservation restriction has been satisfied and that there are no outstanding issues related to the preservation restriction, which you can say confidently. And then the other thing, there are two pieces of information, again, outside of the preservation restriction that we have talked about. Number one is a donation to the town, and that has been agreed to at $13,000. And then also a sign, a kiosk, I should say, an informative kiosk has been determined to be placed, actually not on the 433 Chestnut property, but actually in the town's right-of-way. And so we would be responsible for installing and maintaining it. And so that brought up some concerns as well, which Paul and I discussed in terms of long-term maintenance. And he's actually going to have printed 3 additional signs, the exact same sign. So if and when they need to be replaced, we'll have something to replace them with.
Interesting thought, yeah.
That's a great idea.
So, for those of you who've had a chance to review some of the pictures or actually had a chance to go see the open house, I think, everybody's pretty impressed with the way it came out and his use of some of the historical elements into the finished product. And, we learned a lot from this process. I don't know of another community that has done something like this. So we didn't really have a model to work off of. And, while we have, relatively certain the outcome that we had hoped for, we learned some things along the way. So if we ever want to do this again, we'll just need to
Hold out.
make sure we remember that. Paul, did I pretty much cover everything from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, you sure did. That kind of covers it well. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, any further questions, discussion, thoughts?
Just a quick question. So the $13,000, $10,000 is going to the Historical Commission and 3 is for like maintenance, basically?
And we put it all towards the historical commission.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay. All right.
Yeah, the maintenance is now taken care of with the addition of
Gotcha.
the signs.
The signs being
Okay.
created, so it's just a matter of replacing them if
Okay.
something happens.
All right. And then just as far as timing goes on the kiosk, what does that look like?
I can't say for sure. I think
Okay.
it would probably be good to have, Paul does have a purchase and sale agreement, I think, put together with a potential buyer, and I think it'd be good for that to kind of settle out, and then we could go through and do that.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna
Michael, if I could quickly interject.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. So, in terms of if the sign is agreeable to everyone at this meeting, I can go ahead and have that printed fairly quickly, and then, as Michael said, it's whenever it's convenient or makes sense to have it installed, we can do that.
Yeah.
But I'll have the signs printed up ASAP.
Did everyone, who designed the sign anyway? Was it?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. The Historical Commission did a lot of work, especially Joan and Helen, who actually have joined our meeting
good.
tonight. So thank you both for the work that you did on this. And Paul kind of, and the print maker, finagled with some design elements and everything. Kind of.
Are
made
these
it
going to be
consistent.
similar to the ones that we have at Warren Woods?
Similar. They're actually going to be updated. The
Little
material's
better-
more
better
updated.
durability, right?
Yeah, I think probably the one that's closest is that little kiosk next to Robert Hill Way that talks about the wetland area. If you've had a chance to see that.
I have not. I'll have to go check it out. Okay.
In a few weeks.
They encased in, or at least covered with plexiglass for protection, or?
Yeah, Paul, how would you describe it?
Yeah, so the sign maker in
that's great.
Framingham, All Types, which I think Joan actually contacted, who is owned by John Grosher. The Grosher family lived in Ashland for a period of time, and they're very, very good at what they do. And they recommended a 1/4-inch aluminum laminate So it's actually printed right on metal.
Okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
And that'll be mounted
Oh, we've got
on
3
2
of them.
signposts for rigidity.
Cool.
And those
Yeah,
posts will
here.
be, of course,
Oh,
secured to the
thank
ground.
you. Paul, I'm just going to interrupt you briefly. We have to open and suspend another hearing. So do I have to read the whole thing?
Yeah, you gotta read the whole thing,
God.
unfortunately.
I should get extra duty pay for this, okay.
Yeah, on top of the.
My apologies, everyone. So we're running a little bit behind. We have another public hearing scheduled. Is there someone here for the
Mike's Auto Body.
Mike's Auto Body? Somebody here? Okay. So with your indulgence, we're going to open it and then suspend it as we did for the other one. Okay. So notice is hereby given that the Select Board will conduct a public hearing regarding the change of location for Mike's Auto Sales LLC. The business is currently operating out of Mike's Collision at 183 Magunko Road. Mike's Auto Sales LLC, 50 Magunko Road, Ashland, Mass. 01721. A public hearing will be held on the matter at Ashland Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. on Wednesday, September 6, 2023 at 7:20 p.m. You may attend in person or via Zoom. Parties wishing to be heard on this matter should appear at the time and place indicated above. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Select Board's office, Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. Signed, Robert Scher, Chair, Select Board. Have a
Motion to open the hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor of opening the hearing, say aye.
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 Motion to suspend the hearing until we can get back to it.
And second.
All those in favor of suspending the hearing, say aye.
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 Okay, hearing suspended. Thank you all. Okay. Paul, go ahead. I think we were with you before.
Yep.
Yeah, just commenting on the sign and how it's going
Yeah.
to be made. So it is very durable. John Groshart at All-Type said it should last, anywhere up to, 15, 20, 25 years. And with that, use that material. So with the 3 additional signs, we've got a long duration of having that sign at that location.
Okay. Yeah, I think the sign looks great, and thanks to the people who designed it. Who was it, Helen and Joan? That's great.
And Joan primarily.
And and just my own, so people driving by will be able to pull over and read the sign. Is that basically, like, how otherwise, how else can?
Yeah, they would be able to do that. Hopefully there were not 2 cars at a time.
Yeah. It'd be good if we can at least have some reasonable pullover space. I think it'd be a nice, it's a nice little addition. People come by, oh, what's that? Pull over and read it,
Yeah.
It's real history, so.
It is. The selection of the site for the sign, that was done with Helen, Joan, and Paul, and Joe. Joe was also a part of that
Okay,
as well.
Joe, yes, good work, Joe.
I'm still here.
Yeah. Joe, do you have anything you want to say about it?
No, I think Joan and Helen and Paul did a great job. There's something going on out there, not me. But it was a good effort by everybody that was involved, and I think
Paul
the
may want to
location-
mute himself.
Good location.
All right. Yeah. Is there anything else we can get on? I mean, I think this has been a great addition, and
I move, okay. I move that we vote to approve and sign the certificate of compliance agreement stating that requirements of the preservation restriction have been met.
I'll second that.
motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Joe, vote, okay, unanimous.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, thank you, and I do have, we should sign this before we leave today.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
and Paul, the house is beautiful. I know you showed the house to a few of us this last week, and for anyone that hasn't seen it, it's a beautiful, beautiful job utilizing a lot of the old pieces and wood and details from the old house. So it is a beautiful, beautiful renovation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much, Brandy. And thank you to the Select Board and the Historical Commission for their involvement in this whole project. We all learned a lot from this, and hopefully that experience will go forward with other projects in town. And I also appreciate the other participants in this meeting for being patient, allowing us to have this discussion now. Because I'm getting ready to jump on a plane, so
Okay.
that's why I had to kind of jump in and jump out.
Sounds
But
like you're boarding the
thank you
plane.
very, very much.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Paul.
All right.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Safe trip.
Thank you.
Yeah, safe travels, Paul.
All right.
All
So I
right,
think
thank you.
I need a motion to reopen the
Yes,
public
motion
hearing
to
for Ashland
reopen the
Fishing
public
Game.
hearing for public fish, Ashland Fish and Game.
Second.
All those in favor of reopening the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All right, hearing's been reopened. Okay, what do we do now? I read the legal notice. Any presentation, or Susan, anything on the documents? You sir may want to come up,
Come forward.
yeah, and go to the podium there. Speak into the mic so people at home can hear you. The
First of
horns.
all, I want to thank the board for your time.
Sure.
You know, you approved us already for a beer and wine license. And we've come to realize, talking to people, that an all alcohol license, especially now with the introduction of all these like high noons and all this stuff, that's not considered beer and wine, that's alcohol. So this is a learning curve for me that I'm catching on to, and we found out that we really need to go all alcohol instead of just beer and wine for little reasons, not big things, but we want to try to, and I believe it will work better for the town, because I believe you have more licenses in all alcohol than you do in beer and wine.
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I think so, but.
maybe
yeah.
it's possible.
So, can I ask a question? I don't.
Sure. I mean, are you finished with your statement?
That's what-
And we've gone through.
You guys have already
Sure.
seen all the stuff that we've
Right.
proposed.
Well, I guess- Is
Right,
that
it's
what
just
we
a
did?
matter of
Okay.
changing from the beer and wine to an all
That's
alcohol.
it.
Right.
Okay,
Any
so
other
this-
Same
pa-
timing,
yeah.
same location,
really-
same information.
So I'm confused though, because I thought that it was for the pavilion.
This is for the pavilion.
Okay, but you have a beer and wine already for the pavilion?
No,
gave
you've
it
already
to them in
approved
April.
our beer and wine for the pavilion.
April, we
Pavilion.
gave it.
Okay,
That was
all right.
already approved.
I'm just confused as to
Right.
like what
Well, it may
we're-
be-
okay.
this-
So
wait,
it's
maybe
an
we should-
all alcohol for the pavilion.
Is
And
that?
you
what-
already have a
Correct,
beer
that's
and
what
wine. Okay.
we're going from
Okay.
beer and wine to all alcohol.
Gotcha.
That's all we're
Okay.
trying to do.
And that includes the pavilion, or is
It's
it?
for the pavilion.
Just the
only.
pavilion. We
Okay,
already
at
have
this
an all
point.
alcohol
right.
license for the club itself. We're just trying to get this for the pavilion.
And I'm looking at Susan. Susan, is there anything you want to add for background on this application? We've kind of talked about it, but.
Yeah, just briefly, ultimately, the application came in, it went into the ABCC. There was a couple of additional pieces of paperwork that were needed. And in the meantime, they
Is that a dog?
decided that beer and wine was probably not the best way for them to go.
Okay.
It was to have an all alcohol license. So they decided to submit in, and this will replace the other application that you approved in April.
Okay, so I think we got that clear. All right, thank you. So,
So that one comes back on our roll.
Yeah,
So
which
the-
if you look at the motion, it says that they have to return the beer and wine license back that we gave them.
okay. And when, we did receive a letter, when should we, is it time to introduce this letter?
You received two, I believe.
I did.
You
Oh,
have
there's
two
another one?
letters.
Yeah, there was one in our pack and then there was a separate one.
Oh, okay.
Just
Well, I'm going to I'll read this one that I have, and maybe you could read the other one.
Sure.
This is, Dear Mr. Scherer, we, your neighbors, do not have an objection to the liquor license being acquired by Ashland Fish and Game for the outside pavilion. We are concerned about the noise level, i.e. parties, loud music, etc., since the pavilion is located directly across from our homes, and many of us are seniors who like to retire early for the day. We would appreciate your consideration of a closing time no later than 9 p.m. to mitigate noise level. Please understand we are trying to be respectful of all concerned. Thank you for your consideration. Is it appropriate to read their names? Actually, I can't really, they're signed these, so I have trouble understanding all of them anyway. But, so 4 people signed this letter.
What houses are across from the,
Across the river.
Well, if you can
Across the
just, if you
river.
go across the river, it's a very short hop and a jump.
oh, okay.
And there's
okay.
houses all along there, and we're more than willing to listen to their concerns. If
Okay.
anything we can do we don't want trouble with any neighbors.
All right, hold on,
Right,
hold that thought.
because currently on the application, it has 12 PM to 1 AM for the hours.
For the hours.
That's, we wouldn't need that long hours for the pavilion whatsoever. The club still has to have the 1 o'clock just in
I
case.
see. Okay.
Right,
But
right,
the
right. But we're
pavilion
just,
itself-
right now, we're just talking about the
We're
pavilion.
only talking about the pavilion.
Okay.
So if we need to change the hours in the pavilion
Yeah, so the
to
letter
make
that
it
got
better
printed is the
for.
same one that's in the
Oh,
package.
okay, so that's the
That's our
one.
only complaint, or if you want to have it?
So, yeah, it'd be important to have the other letter and then also the
It's,
other
no, it's the
number.
same letter.
It's the
We've
same
only gotten
letter, I
one
guess.
letter.
No.
Sir, well, there was another
The
letter.
one in the packet is what Rob just read.
Oh, does someone have it? We can read it,
There's,
whoever
there's
has
an
it.
email that was in your packet.
Okay.
Tom Nanatovich,
Yes, sir.
one of the neighbors that's right across there, and the neighbors on either side of me. We have a wide open area of grass right to the pavilion, which we can see and hear at the time.
Are you, did you write this letter, or are you?
Yes, I had,
You're on
I
that
didn't
letter.
write it. Somebody wrote it for me because I'm stupid. No,
Okay.
It's called
no, we
management.
have no problem at all with the fishing game. They've been good neighbors all these years, and we don't really mind that. But where it is, we were talking about the pavilion. It's a direct line to us, and we were just hoping that
Across the
maybe,
river, okay.
you know, maybe the serving hours could be 9 or
9 o'clock,
9:30 or
all right.
something.
So we'll talk to this gentleman
Oh,
about
okay.
that and
And,
see if he has.
and because
any-
they have the other option, excuse me, they have the option of going to the clubhouse or wherever if they want to.
Sure.
That's all we ask. And,
Okay, thank
no,
you.
they've been good neighbors. We have no
Great.
problem. We just, okay,
Did
thank
we
you.
find that other letter?
Yeah, we found it.
I have it. I-
Okay, go ahead, Yolanda, if you, or
Okay.
whoever's got
I
it.
can do it. So the second letter that we got was, I'm writing this email in regard to the Ashland Fish and Game Club Pavilion's application for all alcohol beverage liquor license as an abutter at 281 Pleasant Street. I am corresponding to express my displeasure with this application for the pavilion liquor license. The Ashland Fish and Game currently holds all alcohol beverage license for the main building and bar and rental room. Abutters currently listen to the loud noises that comes from the Ashland Fish and Game Pavilion during sporting events in the early spring, summer, and fall seasons. The pavilion is located directly across the street from abutters' residence with little to buffer us from the loud crowds at softball games and events. Additionally, this would directly impact our residences, adding liquor accessibility at the pavilion, which is available in the main building. I feel that this is an unnecessary component to add to sporting events. Please accept this as a negative opinion in this application process.
Okay. All right, so, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Ron Reeds.
Ron, why don't you go, would you like to respond to those concerns?
As far as noise, as far as the ball field and everything, there's no games, there's no anything going on after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Soccer's starting up now. Now we have the fall league, so that's a little later. The kids are out of school now, so they're doing it. But it's only kids and it's only in the field. We're not planning on having bands in the pavilion. Maybe earlier, maybe a DJ. But we're concerned with the neighbors also. We don't want anybody unhappy with us. We want to get along with everybody, and we're willing to do whatever we can. And we've been aware of that. And I propose a 10 o'clock close the pavilion time at night. Because when you're having stuff, 9 o'clock it's okay, but it's a little early for, a lot of people don't even get started until 9 o'clock. But I'm just trying to, if we could get 10 o'clock, that would, I'm just trying.
I understand.
Trying to get along with everybody. I think 10 o'clock is a pretty reasonable time.
And what nights would this be?
You never know what is going on, but most parties are on the weekends.
So like Saturday?
It would be a Friday or a Saturday night. Very few people rent the hall on a Sunday night. It would be a Sunday during the day. But if you're having a party in the pavilion, we have them in the afternoon, but it could happen at night. And it's up to you guys on the time.
Yeah.
I'm proposing 10 o'clock. I thought that was pretty reasonable, but.
Okay.
So I have a question. You mentioned a DJ. Do you guys have an entertainment license?
We don't, but
Okay.
if we do that, we'd have to get that. This is all,
Right,
until you
okay.
guys approve anything, we're not gonna try to get anything.
Okay.
But once you approve stuff, then we're gonna take our steps and try to do more and more. But
So the DJ's under the entertainment
Would be under.
license?
Oh,
an
absolutely.
entertainment license. Or a band or anything.
anything we do,
Anything like that,
exactly.
yeah. So, I just wanted to make sure, like,
No,
we were kind of.
we know all about that, but we
Okay.
gotta start with, once we get the license, we know we can do stuff, then we can ask you, can we do this? And then we can ask you, can we do that?
Okay.
So, until we know we can do anything down there, we got this beautiful pavilion down there that we're not able to utilize right now.
Yeah.
We utilized it years ago. There was a license, there was a liquor license there and stuff years ago. It got let go, which never should have happened, and now we're just trying to get the club back up to where it was years ago, is basically what we're trying to do.
So I just want to clarify. So Susan, just to double check, and you're cracking me up with the dog on your lap. Very cute, by the way. Is there beer and wine, was that 12 PM to 1 AM? Is that what we approved?
Yes.
Yes,
All
okay.
right, so we'd change that.
And it wasn't, because when we had that discussion, the neighbors hadn't weighed in and.
And we're concerned with the
Have-
neighbors.
I guess the question is, have you done any events under that license?
We've done zero. 'Cause
Okay.
we still had, once you approved us, we had to wait for ABCC.
Okay.
ABC, we've got none of that.
Okay, so it's
Then-
not like we can say, how did things go, or
No,
what
this
was,
is all,
okay,
this is
still all-
why we're
okay.
back here doing
Okay.
this, trying to, that's all part of this, ABC, this is all part of this
So
whole
if-
thing.
If we say, the Monday through Saturday, 12 to 10, 12 AM, 12 PM to 10 PM, would that work? And then-
Absolutely it
And
would.
then, we've done this with other bars and restaurants,
that
that
would-
the residents can let us know, right?
Right, and if
And
that
I'm
doesn't
sure-
work for you for
and I'm
some
sure in the
reason-
winter, there's even less bufferage, because there's no trees.
Weekends 12 to 10 would be.
Well, what
And all
about,
you-
Well,
you're
no, we're-
suggesting
I'm
weekdays?
I will give
suggesting
you my number
every day, 12 to
personally.
10.
Yeah, why,
You have
do
a
they need
problem,
it during the
you need
week?
this
Like,
noise.
Well, I'm
You
just,
call
this
me,
is what they applied
I will
for,
make
and this
sure
is
it
what
gets
we
taken
approved
care of.
last time, so I'm.
That's my
And
job.
again, it's one of those,
yeah, but this is an
I
outdoor
totally
space.
understand.
so,
oh, wait a
hold
minute,
on,
so,
guys, hold on.
We should-
So,
yeah.
so, when we gave you the other license, it was every day, 12 PM to 1 AM. What I'm recommending is we do the same thing every day, so Sunday through Saturday, 12 PM to 10 PM, with a review, maybe in a year. And if, as residents, what we recommend is, if, as this happens, if you have concerns, report it to us, and we can be aware. And if we have too many concerns, because it's during the week and it's crazy, then we can review it.
That sounds
Does that
fantastic.
sound-
Well, so let's see what other, and Joe, if you, yeah, okay, go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ron, we had a minor discussion about this a couple of weeks back. So if you have your license till 10 o'clock at night, last call be at 9:30?
Correct.
Okay, so that should be part of the agreement. Yeah, that should be written in. as well.
That makes sense, and we'd have no
it-
problem with you doing that.
Isn't it with all of our licenses, the last call is always a half hour before the ending, without having to write it in?
Well,
I don't know
Michael,
that.
Susan?
I'm not sure. Is it?
Right, if your ending time is X, your last call is a half hour before, is that correct, Susan?
Yes, you have to have all the drinks off the bar by that closing time, so
Yeah.
that's normally what people do, is it's a half hour before.
Okay, and we don't put that in the,
No,
the information, okay, into the
But it
motion.
wouldn't hurt.
you could, but you
It's
don't.
like duplicating.
Yeah. Joe, do you have other questions?
No,
or-
that was it.
Okay.
I think that the group that's looking for this has been fair, and I hope the neighbors feel the same way. I had a conversation with Mr. Nanatovich a couple of days ago, and his concerns were noise issues. So I get that, I understand that, and I know that Ron is he's a man of his word. So I don't think that he's going to create a situation that's going to be disruptive to the residents and his neighbors across the pond.
Dear. Others? Yes.
And just one logistic question for Susan. So if we approve the all alcohol license, the retail license, that leaves us with 3, and then, is it 3 beer and wine? I'm just trying to keep track of things in my head.
So because they are a club, they don't change your numbers.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. That was,
Which wasn't clear when we were talking about it last time.
Yes.
But now we know that,
Okay.
because it's a club, it doesn't hit our numbers.
okay.
Claudia, did you have
Thank you.
something, questions or thoughts on?
Now it sounds like everybody's ironing it out. I would appreciate an update on the numbers we have on those, because I've kind of lost
Yeah.
track now.
The only thing I think Yolanda is good, the only suggestion I have, I just question needing to go to 10 o'clock like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Is that important to you? Like what?
It's not that important, because I'll be honest with you, we very seldom have a party on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
That's what I
This is
was
why I
thinking.
said to you, Friday and Saturday nights are our
That's
big
it.
nights. That's when something's gonna go on, and I understand the concern. But it's really, we very seldom have parties during the week. Nobody,
that's what I
not too many people wanna rent a hall on a Monday or a Tuesday. It's always a Friday or a Saturday, and Sunday during the day. Very seldom Sunday at night. Sunday afternoon, we do get hall rentals,
And
but
Yolanda, what's the Sunday hours you're proposing?
12 PM to 10 PM.
On Sunday as well?
Yeah.
I thought Sunday was earlier.
No, I'm recommending Monday through Saturday, every day the same, 12 to 10.
Yeah, but what about Sunday?
Sunday through Saturday.
it's,
I apologize, Sunday through Saturday, so all
Oh.
7 days, the same
right. I
thing,
would-
12 to 10.
So I would,
And so here's my rationale for
Okay.
that, is something comes up, they can get something on a Monday or Tuesday, now they're like, oh, no, now we can't. Also, then they're having, oh, okay, we have it from this, for these days, but not these days.
but I think Sunday they should close earlier, don't you guys? Like, what? I mean, what's your Sunday closing time generally? Like, what would?
it's at 12 o'clock. Well, 1 o'clock. Right now, our hours are open to close.
No, all right.
And
So what did you want for
I'll be
Sunday?
quite honest with you. If you go by at 10 o'clock at night, doors are pretty much locked up all the time.
Right.
We have hours in case,
No,
because
but I
we
mean,
don't want to be
what do you
open
want at the
longer than we're
pavilion?
supposed to.
So we've had some concerns from neighbors. What do you want at the pavilion for Sunday schedule?
We want to be able to utilize it as much as we can, but we will also be very concerned and make sure we do not upset our neighbors.
Pavilions, that would be our only concern. The building, he can, okay, it stays open.
Again, I just feel like if we're saying, okay, this day it's this day, let's start with this, and if it becomes a problem, then we can
It's
pull it back.
Very,
is my-
very
is, you know,
seldom have
otherwise
we
we're gonna
rented
come
the
back
hall
with
on a
this.
Sunday.
I think, I agree with Yolanda that it needs to be consistent, because I think changing the hours on different days is kind of, it's confusing to everybody. And I would say, like, maybe we do review in a year, and kind of put that in as our benchmark, and we'll just make sure that the neighbors feel comfortable with, how
Totally
things are.
acceptable, and I understand all the neighbors' concerns. Well,
Yeah.
I will be personally, like I said, I have no problem giving my personal phone number to any of the neighbors. You have an issue, you call me, I'll straighten it out right away.
Okay, I appreciate. Any other matter for the public hearing before we close the public hearing? Anything else? So Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one quick thing.
Sure.
Because we have those hours slated for noon to 10, doesn't mean you have to keep that open till 10
Right,
o'clock. I mean,
exactly.
if you see that it's slow, you can shut it down whenever you feel it's right to shut it down.
Correct.
I mean, those are just guidelines, and you can shut it down earlier if you wish. You just can't extend the hours, but you can certainly.
Yeah, no, I was suggesting because the neighbors were concerned about
Right.
noise
No,
late
no,
at night. Yeah.
absolutely. I get that.
Okay, so anything else? So we ready to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
All those, the motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, so the public hearing is closed, and we can now deliberate. I think we have a motion, or.
I haven't created I haven't read it yet, but we have something.
Well,
I move that we
you read it,
approve
yeah.
the request for the all-alcohol liquor license for the pavilion at the Ashland Fish and Game, provided they withdraw the wine and malt liquor license that was approved on April 26, 2023, with the hours and days Sunday through Saturday from 12 to 10 p.m.,
with a review in a year.
with the review in 1 year.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, all
Aye.
right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, so you have your license.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your time. You've all been great to us, and we're going to try to be great to the town.
Great.
All right,
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for coming in. Okay, so now we need to reopen the,
Motion to reopen the public hearing for Mike's Auto Sales LSC.
okay, motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made second to reopen the public hearing for Mike's Auto Sale. All those in favor say aye.
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 Yeah, very good, okay, motion is, hearing is reopened, okay.
guys can
before
come
we
up
start with, this, Susan, is there any procedural matters on this? You guys can come up. And, you know, when you get up there, identify yourself. And Susan, anything we should know before heading into this?
Yeah, I think Michael has it all.
Okay, okay.
Good evening, everybody. Mike McClemens from Mike's Collision.
Okay. Oh, that Michael, okay. Now I get it, sure. Sorry, go ahead.
So I believe we had a 5-car no-show, no-display license at 183 Magunko Road. It's been a very small utilization of the license. We don't sell a lot of cars. We found that Magunko Road is not a hot spot for car sales. But it is an asset to have the license for the company, whether it be buying and selling cars that were wrecked or going to buy cars for the rental company that we have at the shop. But it's definitely not a great retail location for car sales. So I think probably in the last 8 to 12 months, we've probably done 4 to 5 cars. And so, but it is something that is utilized and is a benefit to have to the company. So with us moving up to 50 Magunko Road, I just wanted to be able to have that license transferred if the board felt it was fit. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Questions or concerns for any, does anyone else want to say anything about, on this public hearing, on this matter? Anybody on Zoom or in the, we didn't receive any written material on this, right, other than?
We see in support of.
Okay, is anybody, should we read that, introduce it in? I see it here.
You can reference that you received.
Yeah, we don't need to
Okay.
read it. You
Letter
know,
of
basically,
support,
he was
okay.
in support that Mike's Collision is a good business and he supports them.
Great, okay. Any questions, thoughts? Joe?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anybody
the-
else?
The plan looks good, so, yeah.
All right. I'm going to make a motion to close the
Motion to
public
close the
hearing.
public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion's been made to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, so the motion, the hearing's closed, so now we can deliberate on this application.
No other questions, so.
Anybody else have anything to say? We can,
I
if you'd
move
be
that we
so good.
approve the request from Mike's Auto Sales LLC to move their Class 2 license from 183 Magunko Road to 50 Magunko Road, and that we hold the issuance of the license pending finalizing the certificate of occupancy.
Thank you, board.
Anybody?
Thank
you, Joe.
We haven't voted yet.
Hold on.
Almost there.
Jumping the
Very,
gun,
very
jumping
close.
the gun a little bit.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of approving the license,
Aye.
Aye.
say aye. Joe, you're cool, right? Joe,
Yep.
good, thank you.
Yep.
All
Now
right.
you're good.
Now you go.
Good
Michael,
luck in
great-
your new location.
Yeah, good luck in the expansion.
Michael, you did a really great job at 50 Magunko.
Thank you, thank you.
It's, I don't know if
Guys
anybody's
have to go
had
take
an
a look at it.
opportunity to see it.
We're really proud of it.
Is that right at
You should
the
be.
beginning of the road there?
Pretty
Right by-
much,
Oh,
yeah.
that's nice.
Is it right by
That's
the
where we have
trail, or
It's actually like
You will
30
know.
feet from the trail. Yeah.
Well, that's nice, you have to take a look
have
at
to
it.
go take a drive-by?
As long as there's no
Yeah.
flag.
You'll be like, one of these things is not like the others.
I get that a lot.
It's going to be a great place to have retail business.
Now it is, yes. Yeah.
Great.
All right.
It's a great job.
I did promise, is he,
Mark?
Mark, that he could continue. Mark, if you could, you have something you want to say fairly briefly, if you can?
Fairly briefly, thank you for the retime, Mark Casoni, going down Hawthorne Road. And it was stopped at saying that he sent all those things I sent were third parties, and you were fearful opening, you know. But I was saying, they're all from the federal government, all from Washington D.C., and they are, what they expand is to every state in the United States, and every event of what they're going to be concerned with for businesses and economic growth and all that, and then especially the census one I've been sending out.
All right.
Census ones and all the biological biotech ones. Because I'm still looking at it saying that we should grow through through these grants and help fill the gap, the costs. But again, we still got the comprehensive plan people what, 29 people? And they don't have time to do what I can do to try to help to give a sense of a direction. So that's why I've been doing this, and I'm going to continue to do it. They're not third party. I'm not afraid to say, because if they were, then I would have been affected by my computer too. Well, I said that because it would have boomerang. But this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm sending to fill that gap and to help the board get a sense of a direction of a person that's not on it, who wanted to be on it really bad. But I just also wanted to get my input in, and it's not pushing the envelope per se. It's just giving forth ideas that they don't put in the agendas because they think of Ashland as a small town and understanding that it's a score to do 2 years with. You got to work it, get forth. So this is my work to get forth to help show the grants. And if they were third parties, I would never start this, but they're not. This is my way of going forth, even though I'm not on it. And if I can't participate with the Zoom, like this part right here, is well, this is my only way. I send it out to help the group. And
All right.
I think
All right, thanks, Mark. That's good. And, you know, I think Michael gave you some advice about, making it count, maybe cutting it down a bit so people have time to look at it. But certainly appreciate your input and, stay involved. So I think, thanks, Mark. I think we have to move on now. And
okay, then I'll say thank you again for the chairman for giving me this time, and it will continue. But I also want to make sure that my voice does not get lost.
Sure. Understood.
Thanks,
All right,
Mark.
thanks.
We'll make sure that doesn't happen, okay?
All right, very good. So the next item I have on the agenda is the Valentine Estate to review proposal and schedule a date for a public forum. So.
Yes. So the Valentine property, does everybody know about the Valentine property?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. So, for those of you who are not aware, if people are watching at home, Claudia, you're newer to the board. So the town purchased the property in 2018 and didn't necessarily have a plan, but really the reason we went ahead to purchase it is first because we wanted to stop the development of 120 units at the location, and number two, we wanted to preserve our right, essentially, to have a plan and make use of this property. And again, that was in 2018. Since that time, we have gone through a long and winding road of what we're going to do with this property. We've received a ton of public input through 3 public forums, just this basically select board, 3 public forums, numerous emails from residents, and I'm sure that you've received people coming up and making comments. And then also, there's been the Valentine Property Committee did a lot of work, and not only in terms of the history of the property, but also what some of the other properties around us do that have similar characteristics and some of their models. And really, so what you're going to see in the proposal, or what you see in the proposal, is nothing that you haven't heard before. It's very, very much an amalgamation of all those things that you have heard. And so what I wanted to do is present, Yolanda, you're always saying, okay, we're doing this $1 million renovation to get the barn basically stable. And if you see it, if you've driven by it recently, they've got the paint going on, the floors are going in, it's looking great. But the next question, like you say, Yolanda, is what's the plan? Yep. Well, here's the proposal for a plan. And so before I get into it, I just want to outline what I'm hoping we can come out of tonight with is I'd like to have some general support from the board on this. It's very, very high level, so it's very short of details. So if I could get some general support on this, and then also if I could get your support on scheduling a public forum where I can present this and get public comment on it as well. That's what I'm hoping you will be favorable to tonight. Any questions before I just kind of dive into some of the details?
When do you want to talk about the schedule?
Maybe at the end,
Okay.
if you're amenable to that. So first of all, I should say that we've got a couple of guiding documents, guiding statutes related to this property that we have to acknowledge. So first of all is the Article 97 restriction, which does not allow us to sell or lease the property. And then we have conservation restrictions that we have to adhere to because we bought the property with CPA funds. And then also it's in alignment with the restriction that we have on the Hicks property, the development restriction on the Hicks property. Everybody following me so far? I know it's kind of like a lot.
I wasn't certain that we couldn't lease it, but we know now we can't lease, even we can't have someone run a facility for us.
It would have, so you could do a short-term lease, but that's
Not a long-term capital
yeah.
kind of lease. It could be a short-term. Like, for
Yeah.
example, at Hopkinton, there's somebody that runs a boat rental in the state park, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it would have to be nonprofit. It would have to be, it could be a commercial enterprise. And again.
But you
a
could have
short-term
minor
lease.
kind of rental or facilities management, sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the conservation restriction also has basically some prerequisites that we have to adhere to. And also Carl and Yolanda and I worked on a draft conservation restriction for the property, which I believe Carl sent to the board back in June and got some feedback on. And so that's actually with the state right now. Once they approve it, it comes back to the board, and the board will need to approve it as well. I should point out that this proposal was not reviewed with the proposed conservation restriction holder yet, but nothing in here is inconsistent with what we've talked about, Yolanda, with Maury and company. So that's kind of the background and just kind of setting things up for tonight. And really what this proposal does is it's really, like I said before, an amalgamation of the ideas and the programs of different properties, both in the Metro West region and also within and outside of the state, in order to, by drawing from this diverse set of influences, we can develop our own unique property and our own unique offering here for the town and also the region. And it's really important that we do something that complements and doesn't necessarily compete with others for a variety of different reasons. It's always better to work together and grow the pie than it is to try to cut up the same size pie into different pieces. Ultimately, everybody gets smaller pieces if you do that. And essentially, what the property would be an agricultural center, which is actually the name. It's an idea that Kate Valentine came up with. And essentially, it consists of a barn that is a multifunctional space that could be used for town meetings, musical performances, artist bazaars, town get-togethers. Could also be rented out for things like weddings and private parties, which when we get to the finances will really kind of be the base from which we operate from financially. It'll need to be. And so that would be the barn, if you will. The house would be really kind of set up into two distinct purposes. So first would be community space at the bottom, and then also space that sets up and helps support the functions of the barn. So we're looking at a kitchen, that can handle what we're talking about in terms of events and stuff. It would also have rooms where if we do have weddings, you could have a bridal party, change. That's how Holliston uses their property. And then really on the second floor, we would use that space as offices for a newly formed Parks and Recreation Department. Now, I want to point out that doesn't mean that we're going to replace our Recreation Department and the space of our Recreation Department within the community center. This would be an additional space. We'll obviously have to ramp up staffing if Parks and Recreation takes on this property. And then we're also probably going to have to look at that anyway, just to really kind of manage the fields the way that they need to be managed. But I can get into that a little bit
The other
later.
fields, not the fields there.
Correct, correct. And then the property itself, the grounds, you know, I don't know if you've seen it, you know, recently, but last year, Carl, Robin, and a few other people did a lot of work in terms of clearing out a lot of the invasive species. And so, you know, there is, it's cleaned up quite a bit, and you can really visualize walking trails that are going throughout the property. Not necessarily at this point connecting to anything, but it could be self-contained. The land area that we're talking about is similar to Cadillac Paint, where we're putting walking trails, so you could kind of think of the similarities there. And then also an all-natural wildlife corridor, or maintaining an all-natural wildlife corridor for wildlife to continue to use. There's a lot of deer, a lot of turkeys, a lot of other animals.
Put a sign so they stay on that.
Well, yeah, we'll do that. We'll paint a line. You stay on this side. Maybe. No. I was going to say something. I won't. Anyway, so that's a general framework of what we're talking about doing with the property. So from a programmatic element, I've talked a little bit about the barn and all the cool things that we're going to be able to do with the barn. Again, this would also be an agricultural center, and instead of replicating the same types of classes and arts that you see at like Hopkinton Center for the Arts, or TCAN or Amazing Things, what I would propose is that we set up something that really kind of harkens back to the agricultural and industrial history of Ashland and also the region, and look at doing classes and artists programs that center around things like metalsmithing, textile fabrics, glass blowing, that's always my favorite, woodworking and wood turning. From what I could tell, there's not really a facility in the region that offers that. So one of the links that I put in there where we draw inspiration from is from a place called Snow Farm up in Western Mass. And that's a little bit of a different model because they have artists in residence, but it's the same type of crafts and the same type of stuff that's that we're talking about here. And then also, we could also have, basically a place within the house, and also if it makes sense to do it in the barn, we could do this as well, where you have different types of artist displays. So one thing that would be really, really cool is if you had a room dedicated to the Valentine family, and there are some very prominent members of the Valentine family, historical and present, and basically having a room dedicated to some of their work. I think one of the great aunts of Kate Valentine was actually the poet laureate of New York, and I think most of her material is at Radcliffe, but there's still some outstanding material that could be part of a display and part of a library at the Valentine property. So any comments or thoughts on the uses that I've talked about so far?
I'll just open it up to people. And Joe, raise your hand or make some noise when you want to say something. Here he is. You were muted, so.
He said I will.
Oh, you will, okay.
So my only question is, when you talk about the glass blowing and the metal working and all that stuff, are you thinking of that in the barn?
I think you could do some in the barn. I think you would have to set up a space outside of the barn to do some of that.
Because I'm thinking of like fire in the barn is probably not.
It's not a great. It depends on if we fireproof it.
Well, a lot of glass blowing places, they have the kilns but they're interior, they're inside, but they're protected.
Okay.
If you've ever been to an interior glass blowing place.
Okay. Have you heard from like artisans that are interested in doing this? Because part of it is like, I'm like, oh, it would be great if there's like a market for it, So like I think back about like how we did the fire station downtown, and I'm like, maybe we need to put out some sort of like an RFI and engage, because you know, we've talked about this, so we can come up with all these ideas, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to resonate with people that are actually willing to come to Ashland or to do those things. I mean, I think an event space that's multi-purpose is like the way to go, because I think we do need a place that we can have events. I think we need that, I mean, to have it be flexible is like key. I just don't know how much I would, like, before we start thinking of, like, you know, sort of like hearkening back kind of thing, I don't know what that kind of market looks like, or what the appetite is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done like a rigorous analysis. I've talked to a couple of different people who are intrigued with the idea, and you know, there is a mobile glass blowing studio who has, you know, basically he goes around to different places.
Okay.
And does that. But that would be, you know, if everybody's supportive of the idea, you know, collectively public, that's something that we would need to get more information on.
Yeah.
And that would be the next step.
Something to kind of refine for the forum and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, we will not compete with HCA doing traditional pottery, you know, painting arts, you know, things of that nature. They'll eat our lunch. We won't be able to do like a music, like a real music venue,
Program.
like Amazing Things or TCAN, just because, again, they are so developed and they're so willing to put the money into these things, and they're already established. That's the thing. I did mention actually this stuff to Kelly Grill, who's the director at HCA, and she thought it was a fabulous idea and thought it would be, you know, something to something where we could partner with.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't want it to make it sound like that, what I'm talking about, is like the major
thing.
component. It's really going to be around the events at the barn that are really going to generate, I think, the enthusiasm and also the revenue
Right.
associated to keep this coming.
Yeah. Okay.
How does the revenue aspect work in terms of,
I'll get to it. So I just stopped at the uses.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you just had any questions about that, I mean, I can certainly go into the financial stuff, or I
yeah,
can
no,
do a brief explanation.
you know, I agree. I looked at the websites that you had given us in the document in terms of, and certainly some interesting things to do, and I was thinking you know, it might even align a little bit with some of the things that Steve's doing, I think, with the Council on Aging, in terms of trying to bring some different activities to, you know, and involve younger seniors, that it might be good for them. So, but the part that mostly concerns me, I think, is the whole idea of how do we sustain it, right?
How to pay for it?
I mean, I hate to be a wet blanket.
No.
That's always our stick.
So, are you set, Claudia?
Yes.
I think this is a great, as you said, executive sort of big picture, what it could be. I love the ideas that you have here. I love the idea of making it a multifaceted location, so that the community gardens, because they're always running, they're running out of space. I'm sure more people could use.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that.
And there's water there, right? Because I remember when we looked at Cadillac Paint and potentially trying to put some extra sites for the community garden at Cadillac Paint, but there was no water source.
Right.
And they're having to lock their gardens at the community gardens because people were going in and stealing vegetables. So I think if we can increase and do that up there, it goes back to the history of the farm and stuff like that. The trails, I think, is great. And I know you said you're going to go into this for the financial, but a couple things. So right now, there's no plan to put any heating or cooling in the barn.
That's something that I think we have to discuss once
Okay.
we have some legitimate experts
Okay.
on board.
Because
to help us.
as I look at, I mean, it's a beautiful barn, but
pumps.
at most, it can be used from April through October, depending on the weather. And certainly if if they want to do the indoor farmers market there, even if it's a little chilly in November, it would work. But I think that's something, if we're going to really look at doing this long-term, it's something we would have to look at. Then, again, and this is part of when you go into the financials, but a couple questions as you go into it, just the potential cost of Park and Rec, right? Expanding that department, what would that
Yes.
mean? And then, is this something where we could could there be a nonprofit Friends of the Valentine Barn that does fundraising to help with this facility? Is that a possibility, right? I think
Absolutely.
about, we have the Friends of the Public Library, we have the Friends of the Council on Aging, and I know in your financial synopsis to us, you're like, we haven't done well at fundraising, but this is a different thing, and I think there are people who might want to participate and be a friend of the Valentine property that are not seniors, so they don't want to be Friends of the Council on Aging, and, oh, yeah, well, I like what the Friends do, but I'm not going to do my membership every year, so.
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are really endless, and just because, our past doesn't, I always say our past doesn't always have to.
Nope, doesn't have to be our future, exactly.
So as a community, we can make a determination as a group every day to do something different. And I think, that's going to be important. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different things that you can think about from a financial perspective. Maybe we partner.
Can I just see if Joe has anything?
Sorry,
Joe, do you have anything to add about the uses before we get into the next phase here?
No, I think the program that Michael has before us is some of the things that I was looking forward to, especially the use of multi-purpose aspect of it and generating revenue to support itself. Not completely, but at least maybe 75% of it to do that. Similar to what the Holliston group has over there at the Holliston Historical Society, and the monies that are generated over there through weddings and parties and whatnot. So, yeah, no, I think it's a nice plan. It's going to take time to do it and do it right. So I'm all for it.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
I just had one more question that I meant to ask. Is there enough land there that it might support a playing field for children, or?
Can't put one, I don't think we can.
I don't know if
formalized
you could do that with
recreation.
Article 97.
It can't
Yeah.
be
Playground?
formalized recreation?
Can't do a playground or recreation, informal?
I think it can only be I believe it can only be
Passive
passive
recreation.
recreation. And based on the restriction that we've talked about, it would only be passive recreation.
But you could maybe have like a fit trail or something like that. That
Maybe a fit
might even
trail,
be
that might be considered
or
passive
climbing
recreation,
something
but not
or-
an actual field.
So you couldn't have a soccer field?
No.
No, and actually, I think,
I don't know
Claudia,
that
the
you-
land itself doesn't
Lend itself.
doesn't lend itself, just because it does rise to a steep hill, and on the lower end, there is a significant wetland area, as well as a stream that goes through.
So you want to keep it informal. The only thing I would add, I think the wedding venue idea is, I like the proposal, and I think the wedding venue, I think there's a market out there for reasonably priced, nice wedding venues that are local and kind of easy to do.
Yeah.
So,
There's definitely a market for that. I think Warren Conference Center is booked up 2 years in advance.
yeah.
Holliston, I think, is 1. Yeah, I would agree. So that's probably where we've done the most research, is related to that. And Yolanda, thank you for, getting back to uses. Thank you for bringing up the community gardens. I'd left that out, but that is a critical component.
Good idea.
So now I will get into the financial plan. And we've talked a lot about it, but mainly what's the important thing that we would do is, we would utilize an existing or establish a new revolving fund. So everything, expenses and revenue would go through that same account. That would have to be authorized at town meeting each year, similar to what we do with our other enterprise funds. So we'll have to have basically a budget for operating expenses and also a budget for capital expenses. And like both Hopkinton Center for the Arts and Holliston, they usually go to CPA when they need to make some improvements. And their CPA committees have been, traditionally have been favorable towards helping with that, and helping with the maintenance. And then, so the operating expenses it's a math exercise. So we'll have to look at what we need to spend, and then we will also need to look at how much revenue we're gonna bring in.
And how are you going to treat the fact that there's a town office there? How does that financially work? I mean, would the town then pay some rent into this operating fund, or how would, you know what I'm saying, to help support it? Because it's an office space in that case, so how are you thinking about that?
Well, I think, I think a lot depends on how we want to treat the fields moving forward, whether we want to continue with an enterprise fund or whether we want to use a revolving fund. So Parks and Rec would oversee the fields. And, I'm kind of glossing over that, but that is a big issue. We've heard that from Doug Small.
Yeah, I see that as a kind of associated, but really kind of a separate issue. We can move forward with that and how to do it.
Yeah, there's a couple
I think it'd be good to have
ways we do it.
staff there for running this facility. If somebody's around, that's great.
And there's a couple of different models that we could explore further. Holliston and the Thayer Homestead in Medway both have an on-site caretaker.
Yeah.
So they're a little small.
You got to support.
It does in Southborough, they have
In Southborough?
Yep,
So-
the corner of 85 and Route 30.
Oh, that little house
Yep.
there?
Yep. You can rent that, and, I mean, it's very small, but has a
In
kitchen.
downtown Southborough.
Yeah, just call
okay.
that downtown.
Yeah, okay, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, it's their downtown.
Yeah,
so-
downtown.
Yeah,
Okay, I know what you mean, yeah.
so.
And that's also owned by the town, right? The town owns that?
I believe so, and they,
Yeah.
I know they have a caretaker, or at least they did several years ago now, we rented it.
So,
I definitely think this is moving in the right direction, I think.
Are there any restrictions on what can be done to the barn on the inside, and the interior, in terms of?
So not on the interior, but that will be a discussion that will need to evolve again once we get some experts. Do we want to do something like HCA and sheetrock most of it? Or do you want to keep it natural? Most of the people I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot about this, want to keep it natural.
Yeah.
Right,
the way
as
it
much as
is.
a barn look, I mean,
Yeah, I
keep
think
that
people who
barn
would
Similar
decide to have a
to-
wedding
similar
there
to
would-
Holliston.
yeah, that would be the look.
Yeah, you don't
that
want a
would-
big blank wall.
Yeah.
you know.
I
Exactly.
mean, and I also think if you look at HCA and what they're doing there, as you said, they're an art center, and their
Yeah.
big thing are the classes and the theater performances and the music performances, and also, I mean, they also rent it out for events.
Well, and they have big money benefactors. too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and they have a pretty good-sized budget, so.
Yeah.
But I think if we look at this as a more rustic place, right? People go all over for rustic wedding venues. I think if we can keep that feel, I think the discussion, as you said, the next thing is bringing this to the public and getting their input. I personally think at some point we're gonna want not get rid of the second floor, but access that second level. I think about like at the Warren Conference Center, when you're in that main area, they have that second floor where you can go up and be up there, as well as, I think, I don't know. The other thing I think moving forward, we would want to maybe have a committee that works with you on this. So that, because there are a lot of people interested in this, and I think if we can, not just have it on you, but have people who are committed and who want to, work and design and plan and stuff like that might be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to use our experience.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
And history with that to come up with the right formulation.
Yeah.
And the right balance there.
Discuss this enough, don't you think?
What was
Joe,
that,
what's
Joe?
Have we, I don't know, are we still discussing what we want to do with it, or are we going to move on to
I
another?
think we moved on to discussing the finance and administration.
Finances,
part.
okay,
So,
wasn't sure.
did you have anything you
So,
wanted to say
it
about it?
sounds like we're revolving right back to the beginning again.
Oh,
That's what
sorry.
it is.
Yeah, I think we're wrapped.
So I just I have a question.
Sure, go
So,
ahead.
we didn't talk about the renovations of the house, because that will be like a big component of it too.
Yeah, I haven't got to it yet.
Okay, I
So-
wasn't sure, because when we were talking about finances, I wasn't sure if we were, we were talking about the operating expenses, but there's like the big chunk of change that we'll
Big chunk,
need to,
Yeah, and so I did talk to Doug Scott about this. It's really hard to get a real estimate
For the house.
for all of this that we're
Okay.
talking about. But, he put a price tag of $4 million on it, and we can't hold him to that. But, he's he's got more experience than any of us, or all of us combined, actually. So, you know, I think that's something that we could work with. Now, $2 million, you've already allocated $2 million of ARPA.
So
to
we
go
did
towards
one, and then there was, where did the second million come from? Because we had done the renovations.
Well, initially, we had looked at doing the Karen money.
Okay.
But then we decided to do, and we were gonna use part of the money that Karen got us. We did have it as part of ARPA, our ARPA allocation.
Initially.
$2 million initially. Then I was like, okay, well, maybe we can use the money that Karen Spilka got us, and then looking at some of the details, I'm like, let's just switch it back around, and we'll do
Okay.
downtown with the Karen money and go back to ARPA.
Okay, we may need to re-review that, because I can't, I can't.
I think that would be good.
Because in my mind, I see like 750,000 for ARPA funds for the barn, and then the CPA funds, and then we were making up the delta, like there was a little bit of a delta.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, but there's been a lot of like movement with different
Yeah, you
funds coming
voted
in
on
and
it
out.
twice, though, and so I've moved forward based on that vote.
Okay. It would still be good just
Maybe
sort of
good to review
because
it.
the public's gonna wanna know, right? If we look to
Something
move
for the
forward
forum.
on this with these finances, where are we getting the money to do some of
Yeah.
this work?
And then the other 2 million, I mean, we could
Excuse
look
me,
at
Joe.
CPA.
Joe, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, Mike can finish his comment.
Sure, okay, go ahead.
I do have a question about the house part of it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
so,
Mike.
so we will have a delta using, you know, Doug's very high-level estimate of $2 million. And, you know, potentially we could go to CPC for that. We could look at general fund. There's, you know.
Is
a
that
number of
something you
different
could,
ways.
could we bond that? I mean, is that, so be part of the capital budget or the
Yeah,
bonding? and-
we would probably bond, even if we use CPA, it would probably, you know, maybe a portion of it would be a large chunk of that, but then the rest of it would be bonded.
Yeah, so you do, your budget would be yearly bond payments as opposed to trying to come up with like $2 million. Is
Yeah,
that possible? Okay.
essentially, because I don't even know if we have that much in CPA that we could devote towards this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
has to
I
be
worry about
general
like
and
trying to
historic.
come up with 2 million. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
because I remember when we first started talking about this, that we had said that if we were gonna do all this on our own, we were gonna need to go back and ask for like a debt exclusion or some sort of additional funding from residents.
Yeah.
But we don't think we think it's possible that we can actually do this without that.
Well, when we had that discussion,
Yeah.
ARPA wasn't part of the equation.
Okay.
And, you know, we've,
Strike while the iron's hot. and-
well, we're very, very fortunate in that regard, that
Yeah.
we've got a lot of that money.
And we have to use it by a certain date, right?
Exactly.
Couple years.
2024 or 2026?
You know, everybody else is freaking out because in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks, the whole federal government could shut down, but at least the ARPA funds, my understanding is they'll still be available.
They're still
As
be
of right
available.
now.
They haven't
It's
taken them back.
2026 is when they have to be used. by.
Okay.
But yeah, I think getting back, you know, Yolanda, to, you know, talking about like the committee and stuff like that, I mean, this would be a town department that would be operating it.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Right, the Park and Rec, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but I
Oh,
do think
okay.
you could
I was
probably
wondering
have like
about
an
that.
advisory committee to be
I
part
think
of that.
more for
Yeah.
the creation of the, you know, what we do at the barn, what we do for the house in regards to, you know, historical aspects, you know, or not. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Something to think about, because, you know, it's something you want some working group to continue.
You want
to
some
kind
public
of-
input.
Well, that's why I'm suggesting we go ahead and
Forum.
have a public
Right.
forum. And then I'm also going to review this with the Historical Commission and the Conservation Commission as part of the CR. So
Right.
I think, like I said, I think we just want to use prior history and experience to help inform how we move forward. And Yolanda, to your point, we do have to have this spent by 2026.
It's gonna be here before we know it.
I would just kind of look at how we got to this point and where we are now, and just kind of use that to help inform us for
Right.
the future. Knowing that we've had it for 5 years, and
Yeah.
we've only got 3
We're
years
getting-
to spend
we're
money.
getting- yeah, we're getting
Yeah, but we
going.
also had, you know, 2.5, 3 years of COVID in there. So, I mean, I tell people that all the time, right? Things got a lot of things had to get put on hold, not everything, but.
Oh, and this was never the intention. We were never intending, when we bought the property, we were never intending to spend the money to do the renovations ourselves.
Right, we were hoping to get someone
Yep.
who would do fundraising.
That was the
and-
intent.
Right.
So,
That was the intent.
so plan, I think we're probably at like Plan E at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, thank God for ARPA funds.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we would do, quite frankly,
Well, that's
without that.
Did you have a lot, what else do you want to present about this, Michael? Just trying to get an idea. what
Just
you
in
think.
terms of the house, I think that, I mean, there's nothing we can do in the barn if we don't have bathrooms that are only in the house, right? To be able to use, you're gonna have to have some public
Yeah.
facilities like that. So I think.
And catering, a kitchen that if you're gonna have, you know, a wedding venue, you know,
Not a
you have to
commercial
have some sort of
kitchen,
kitchen.
that kind of thing, yeah.
I do have a question, Claudia, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to interrupt you, but before Michael ends his
Yeah.
conversation, you were talking about putting office space in there, town office space. With the renovations, the ADA Compliance Act comes into play, and are there any federal monies for that assistance to
That's interesting.
make that compliant under those regulations?
You know, potentially. You know, in terms of the requirements for the public to be accessible to offices, that's something that we would, again, need to explore. We'd also need to, you know, there's also the potential for waivers to it being a historical house. There's the potential for waivers.
But to Joe's point, even for the staff, wouldn't it need to be ADA
I
compliant?
think what happened.
If you have staff that needs to access the second floor, or,
I don't know.
You'd probably need
I
a-
don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, we could definitely
Okay.
get some waivers.
Yeah, I just throw that out there because I don't want to put, you know, a wrench in the works here, you know, halfway
Yeah.
through this, that's all.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I would, that's important. It's an important point. And, you know, like I said, we're talking about a lot of things that we don't necessarily have the answers to right
Right.
now. We'll need to have an architect or an engineer, and again, that's kind of what I'm hoping, is that get some, you know, general support behind the idea, and then we can move forward with hiring an architect who can help us flesh this out a little bit more, give us more realistic
Okay.
ideas of what's possible, what's not possible, what you can do, what you'd be giving up if you do that, et cetera.
Yeah,
And then
interesting.
also provide a high-level estimate, you know, based on something real,
yep.
so.
Yeah, it sounds like a needed next step, you know.
But, you know, I don't want to necessarily do that unless you know, we've got support for
Yeah.
this.
Is that a question you want a response to right now? In general?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're generally supportive
Yes,
of it.
I think
Yes.
so. I think
And
I am.
It
and
sounds
I
like
think
you're generally
everybody else is.
supportive of a
Listening to the
forum.
public. Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
I'd like to do that, if possible, in early November. I don't have exact dates picked out, but
Joe, are you good so far? Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, I think this is good forward progress, and, you know, there's always gonna be questions and issues and funding and, you know, all sorts of stuff to work out, but I think you're moving in a good direction, and thanks to you and Carl and Robin and everybody else who was involved in this, and,
well, a lot of people
Yeah.
have had their hands in this in some way or another. Again, the Valentine Property Committee did
Yeah.
a
Ton of
ton
work.
of research, not only on the history of the property, but also, you know, what other types of facilities like this are doing. Yeah, it's
great.
got the potential to be a real
Yeah,
gem.
it's really kinda
Not
cool.
just for us, but for
the region.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you think people go up to like Vermont, New Hampshire, and go to places like this and do funky little things, you know, I mean, you can do it around here, you know?
Have any of you ever been to an event at Holliston, the Holliston Barn?
Never been to an event, but one time they were setting up, and I stopped in. I specifically was like, I want to go see exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
yeah.
it's a great little space.
Yeah,
I've never been there.
but it's got a vibe to it.
Oh, yeah.
That just kind of makes
I mean,
it.
it's a cement floor, but it looks like a barn, and they've had it for a while, and in the late 70s, they put the kitchen and the bathrooms
Right.
on the back of the barn, so you don't even notice it. But it's a great space, and I mean, that was something when we decided to
model,
purchase
yeah.
this, that I was always like, we can do that, or something
at that
similar
place.
with our barn.
Where
So,
is it? Is it
So-
downtown?
Right on 126.
Right there.
Right across from the police station.
Back quite a
Okay.
little ways.
Right across from their police station.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just curious, so are the Parks and Rec Department would be responsible for the management of the barn, as far as like booking it and all that stuff?
like that, yeah.
And then would our communications team be responsible for marketing it? Because I think part of it is gonna have to be, I mean, like, that's gonna be a big thing.
Well, you get the right person in place, they can do the bookings, the marketing, you know,
Okay.
they can do that. Now, that may be a full-time job, like, you
Yeah.
know, just dedicated to that. I think that's something that we have to,
Well,
that out.
certainly if they're gonna be also managing the fields, right? I mean, we've said that the marketing for our fields has sort of fallen off. I mean, we used to be doing some great marketing and we used to be getting some great events. Now, we're no longer the only town that has multiple turf fields, but certainly if we could have someone not only marketing the barn, but Stone Park and other areas and the fields, that would be a great thing.
yeah.
How big is the house in terms of how many upstairs? I mean, could you have a caretaker and still have room for some offices?
Yeah, you could.
'Cause that,
It's-
that could offset the salary of,
Have you ever been in the house?
I have, but not.
So we did
We've
not
been
to
eating
plug the
years.
show, but 2 years ago?
Was it
we
that
did
long?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, we have been talking about this.
We
property
did
a
an
lot,
around the
so-
clock that like walked through the downstairs and the upstairs, so check that out. There's some really cool built-in woodworking, drawers and cabinets in the back part of the house. It was, yeah.
Do you want to try, do you say you wanted to set a date tonight, or you just want to throw out
Would
some
it be,
dates?
if early November sounds good for you, I can go back and
I think
look
so.
at some
I mean, you don't want to go in
specific
the late
dates.
November, so.
Yeah,
I
we got
think-
town meeting in late November.
Or do we, geez, where is it? When is, oh, there it is,
If
the
you wanna-
29th,
if you wanna
right?
The
cancel
town
that.
meeting is the 29th.
Yeah, so, yeah, I agree, and then you're getting Thanksgiving and then December, so, yeah, early November is probably,
The time.
yeah.
And this has been really helpful for me because some of your questions, I'm sure, are what some other people are gonna ask too. So I can start putting together some materials, and like I said, I'll probably have a overhead map image for the forum that, you know, shows where the wetland is and
Yeah, cool.
what we're thinking
Did you
about.
get your questions answered, Claudia? Because you attach those three, so it's the three parcels together on the Google map that makes the whole thing.
Yeah, I sat with Mike for a little bit
Okay.
to just, go over some of the questions that I had about the property, so
Good.
I did.
And there are seems to be substantial field space there available for both parking and walking in natural areas, so, good,
Yeah, that's the other thing we did not talk about is parking.
yeah.
Right.
Parking is gonna be a key, so I did a really
gonna be
rough
key.
rudimentary analysis.
Something occurred to me, could we do parking right on 135 during events? Can you like create a space where people could pull over and, on the side of the road?
I doubt it, and with the addition of a sidewalk, I really
Well, maybe
doubt it.
that's, yeah. Well, I mean, we own the land, so in that case, you wouldn't
We
have to
don't
do
own
it.
all of it. You're talking about the
State
space
road.
we
Frontage,
have?
the frontage.
Well, we do on the Valentine property, but, you know, beyond that, we.
No, that's what I mean, but I'm in trouble, I mean, even if you have a pullover space for 5 or 6 cars could be helpful, I would think, but
Well,
I don't know, but,
What would be good is,
something to think about.
when we get the sidewalk completed, and we have the crosswalk, it's really a stone's throw from the Valentine property, the community center and the Valentine property.
No, that's good.
So people could park at the community center if it makes sense.
Or
and walk over.
the schools.
The schools.
The
we
middle
should-
school is right there. If the sidewalk gets extended, that's not that far of a walk.
Yeah.
I think Robin and Cindy would be open to entertain the idea of using part of their property for parking. I mean, it gets used that for the state park in the summer.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I know that corner. Well, that's something to keep in mind as we design the sidewalk about how we might want it to maybe create some parking space, so maybe think
Yeah, I
about
think
that.
that'd be difficult. I really do think
Yeah,
that'd be
okay.
difficult.
You mean like right on 135?
Well,
You
like
just
if
pull
the
up and-
sidewalk comes in a bit and then you've created some parking space,
Well,
that's,
except that you have the historic stone wall.
oh, well, there's that.
We don't
kind
know
of-
which
so I
side
don't-
of the road.
Yeah,
the
what the
parking-
heck.
Details, you
We
know.
don't know which side of the
No,
road.
I don't know the
The
details.
sidewalk's gonna
Sidewalk's
go
gonna
on
be
you.
on you.
That's true.
Yeah, right, that's true.
Right.
So something to
Still,
think about,
yeah.
anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
So
So
you're
you'll
all
throw out some
generally
dates.
supportive of this?
Yes.
And-
Yeah, let's
Okay,
keep it the
awesome.
way it is.
Very much so.
All right.
Yeah, no,
Awesome.
that's great. Thank you,
Grandson,
Michael. Yeah,
actually
that's,
asked me, why did they put the boards over the,
The zip board?
yeah, no, he said over the plywood. He said, I really like the plywood.
Hey, you know,
You know,
if there's
he
one-
likes the rustic look.
if there's anything we've learned
Plywood.
from this, is that there's a diversity of opinions. That goes all across the map.
all right. Yeah. All right, well, thank you, Michael. That's great. I'm glad to see we're moving forward on that and putting all these ideas together. All right, the next I have is the BAA grant discussion, and this, I believe, Brandy put something together along with Susan, and Yolanda, you're also, Claudia is also on the subcommittee, so presume you guys have agreed on those things, and I think, did everybody have a chance to kind of read through it? It's in
Yeah.
the packet. So I don't know,
I can give a
Brandy?
really
Yeah,
brief,
sure, why
I
don't
can
you
give
go
a
ahead.
really brief synopsis.
Yeah.
So, I think we started this discussion back in March, where, you know, we obviously, you know, our town gets 22 bibs for, from the BAA for being a marathon community. We ask the runners that run on behalf of Ashland to raise $3,000. That goes into our runners account. The runners account then gets used for our BAA grant program that the select board then allocates amongst multiple organizations through the year. The organizations that are able to use the runners account are 501c3 organizations. Historically, we've opened up the grant rounds to any organization in Ashland with a maximum of $2,500. The kind of the thought process around revising sort of our grant program was really to better utilize the funds that the runners account accumulates every year. I think I'm looking at like what I had from the last
Yeah, you
cycle, and
did a
we
little
had like
synopsis,
$46,000, and that's before any of the runners even start fundraising for this year. So to better utilize that balance and establish kind of guidance for groups that are not 501c3, because we've been utilizing the select board's gift account, which is coming down quite rapidly, I would say. We use that money for a variety of things in town. That money is funded from the Warren Conference Center room fees in lieu of taxes. And I think that, if I remember correctly, and Susan may, definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that account, generally it grows, we estimate 15 to 20,000 a year. So it's a much smaller bucket of money that we use for a large amount of things in Ashland, including, we just set aside last meeting, 5,000 for the Nyanza Memorial. We use it for the volunteer breakfast and the runner's breakfast and a lot of things that we do. So the other thing was that, we really should, I believe, ask organizations that have received funds in the past how they've used it, give us some information as well as like receipts of how they've documented the use of those funds. And then, over the years, we've kind of had some internal guideposts of how we allocate funds from one organization to another, but it's not necessarily kind of a consistent process. So, create standards that's just generally more equitable across the board. So what I proposed was really to separate it out into two programs. One is a BAA grant program, which is the runner's account, and that, before we used to cap it at 2,500, and I'm suggesting we raise that to $4,000 to better utilize the funds. one of the comments that was provided the last time we talked about this was, well, what happens if there's a lot of organizations that have a lot of requests, and so, you know, how do we make sure that that amount isn't dwindling down before the next grant cycle? And so I included that if the total of all the requests for a grant cycle exceeds 50% of the balance in the runner's account, there'll be a pro rata percentage reduction of all grant accounts to ensure that only 50% of the account balance is used. And this will also establish a maximum grant award through 2 consecutive grant cycles of $6,000 total for the, and this is just for a 501c3. And if sort of all the things have been checked off, if they've provided a summary of what they've used the funds in the past, if they provided receipts, and they have justification as to why they're requesting the money, the recommendation would be to grant them the funds that they're requesting up to that $4,000. So that is the BAA grant program, separating out sort of a select board community grant, which still allows us to give money to those organizations that don't have 501c3 status, but to a lesser amount so that we can fiscally be responsible for how we control the select board gift account for all the other things that we use it for. So basically it's a lot of the same types of things that we are allowing only $1,000 for the grant, although they can apply in the second, the next grant cycle for another $500 if they would need that. And then it is the same thing that they need to provide some rationale for how they've used previous funds in the past, and it would come before the full. Both of these would come before the select board for a full review and vote, but the subcommittee would review all the applications and kind of go from there. So I know that's a lot,
Okay,
but
thank
the major changes were really the 50% pro rata, you know, to maintain the runner's account, to make sure we maintain that amount.
Claudia, did you have anything to add to that, or you?
No, I think Brandy did a fine,
Yeah.
Brandy did a fine job.
Okay, great, okay.
I have
all right, Yolanda, go ahead.
1 or 2 comments. First of all, this is, I think, very good, very well thought out. I like that we're increasing the amounts. I like the fact that if we have too many applications, everyone gets reduced, not, okay, well, we'll give this one everything and that person not as much. I think it's, as you said, it's a little more equitable, and it's not based on, okay, what we think is more important.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Or
a really,
needed, you know.
or needed, you know, I think that's a great idea. I like that you've split out those that are 501(c)(3)s and those that are not. I think that's a good thing. My question for you is it a rolling 12 months, right? So if I'm an organization and I applied in the spring, and then I apply in the fall, right? So that's my twice.
Yep.
But if I'm an organization, I didn't apply in the spring, but now I apply in the fall, when the spring cycle comes up, we'll go back and look at what they did in the fall?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll have to be aware of
The previous
cycle's awardees,
Yeah.
so that okay.
Yeah.
And
So-
then, for those that it's their second sort of bite of the apple, if their first one had to be prorated because of the number of applicants, if they come back the next time and there isn't that, right, there aren't as many applicants, would they then be able to get the full 4,000? Or would it depend on what they got in the first round? So it didn't max out above the 6,000?
So if they did, so the idea is, okay, so if the first round, you know, they can apply up to $4,000.
Right.
Say we give them $3,000. They can then at the next cycle apply for 3,000.
Okay, up
Yeah,
to 3,000,
yeah.
so that it's still the 6,000.
Six, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's what I figured,
Yeah.
I just wanted to sort of
And
clarify
that's
it.
like my thought, because I think,
Yeah.
because it sets the max.
And what's
Right,
the
I think
round,
that
what's
makes
the
sense.
grant round? Is it like a distinct year? Yeah, I know you just said. So is it like spring and fall is the round and then they start over, or is it, You know what I'm saying?
I think it's just 2 consecutive grant cycles.
So,
Right.
anytime, so it could be whatever.
Yeah.
Right, so for some people, it
It's
could
not
be.
like within a calendar year.
Right,
But-
so for some people,
Yeah.
it could be spring and then fall, and for other people, it could be fall and then
So
spring.
for your typical, like, well, say soccer, I think they pretty much apply twice a year. So they would pretty much go down to 3,000 each time then? Is that how that would work?
They would apply for, say, 4,000 the first
Yeah.
time, and they could apply for 2,000 the next grant cycle.
And
And I
then-
would, and, you know, to that point, like, you know, soccer, I would like to see a summary of how they've used that,
All
so
right.
it offsets
So say, so they've
costs
gotten
for.
6,000, so then they give you the summary and
Yeah.
everything. Then what can they apply for? They can apply for the 4,000 again, or do they have to keep?
Right.
Okay, so it starts over. That's what I'm
Right, so
just
it's
trying
a
to
rolling
understand.
12 months,
All right.
depending on when your first application
Oh,
is put
okay.
in.
So, so it's within 12 months, and after that, you start over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for everyone, we would make this effective as of this grant cycle. Okay,
All right.
I think it's great.
Joe? Yeah,
You're
I think
muted.
You're muted.
Still
Still
muted.
muted.
Donna did it.
There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. No, I like the way you folks divided it up and made it equitable for everybody. My question is, and I didn't hear it, and maybe I zoned out when you were talking about it, but I apologize. When you were talking about youth sports, we're talking about town youth sports, right, and not school-related sports?
Well, we used to get school
Any,
related.
I would think
Yeah.
any
Club.
organization.
So I think
Well-
like Clocker Club is like a
That's a-
501c3.
They apply
so
almost
they've
every
applied.
I understand that, but I thought in years past, there was a common area where this didn't support budgetary line items. So I have a concern about that. It's not that I don't want to give it out, but in years past, that was part of the,
Yeah, so we
I think
couldn't
we've
get-
supported school
But they weren't like.
organizations
Yeah.
before.
It wasn't
I
like
don't-
the football team per se, but it was like the boosters or the parent, right?
Yeah, the 501c organizations that support the school, I would say, is what,
Right.
and I understand that, Claudia. The example that was made earlier was the soccer team or lacrosse team.
I meant
And that
youth
was
soccer,
youth
sorry.
sports, or was
Youth,
that-
I meant youth soccer.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's all I have to ask. I'm good with it. I'm
Okay.
fine
And,
with that.
and I know that we've received, I think, requests in the past to help with like hockey rink time, like
Yeah, that's true.
fees and things
It
like
was-
that.
It was, yeah.
And so I think
Yeah.
something like that would fall
Like the
under.
captain's practice
Yeah.
or something.
And that would fall more under this community grant.
Right.
Because they are not a 501c3.
Right.
Oh, I see
So
what
we
you're
could,
saying.
we could, you know, theoretically, like, decide to support if they needed,
Yeah.
you
So-
know,
If
they
assistance
came
with-
back.
Yeah.
Right, so I have two, I think this is good. I just had two, when you say valid request, so what's do we have a definition of what a valid request is? So when you guys are going and screening this application, is there a criteria? Like, is that here, or do we have it somewhere? Or what makes it something that's going to be approved versus seen as not approved? Other than, we know you're going to require that they give us the history if they have it, but is there other things, and they're nonprofit, or if they're for-profit, they're in a different group, but what's the definition of valid, I guess, or is there?
So I would say that if they are an Ashland organization that requests funds for a specific purpose, whether it's a 501c3 or another group in town, because we definitely have other groups that request funds, and they've provided sort of the rationale behind it and how they've previously spent money, I think that's a valid request. So
So you guys, you'll do some judgment. You're gonna
no,
review
we
it.
don't want to do judgment.
Well, I think that's the difference
thing.
here.
Well,
is
I
that-
mean, but, well,
Yeah,
okay.
so I would say if they provide the information to us about what they're looking to do, we're not going to pass judgment to say, you know what, that's really not a good that's not a really good project. You know, we're not gonna help support that because honestly, part of this is trying to remove some of our discretion amongst
Yeah,
picking and
subjective.
choosing.
Right.
It-
Right, okay, and I think, but, okay,
So-
but, okay.
That was one of the reasons that I thought this
Yeah,
was.
okay.
it was
Typically, do we have more grants, more applicants than we have monies?
No. So last
Not in the
year, and I
past,
think
no.
part of this also was, and Susan can also talk to this too. We had, partly because of COVID, because of the way and we had gone a couple of what we would typically have as grant rounds, and we didn't do grants. We had quite a bit of funds that we weren't kind of, we didn't have enough we didn't spend it all. We didn't even spend nearly what
All right, and
has been raised.
my other thought or comment in going to what you would call the community groups, which you're limited to $1,000, right? And up to a total of 1,500
Yep.
through the, so the only suggestion I would have is like, leave yourself a little flexibility. Like if you get someone who wants more than 1,000 and they have very good reasons, you know, it may be that you apply some sort of
No,
exception.
I think this is taking that, you know, ooh, I think this is good versus that.
Well,
away,
but it's,
right?
but it's not,
That's-
it's not that it's good, it's just that they have a strong reason. I mean, I guess that's
Yeah, but
what
if we
I
think
would-
that we need to have that higher amount, then make that a higher amount overall. I think $1,000, I mean,
I guess, okay, so I guess that does strike
and
me
we
as
don't
a little
have as
low,
much
but-
in the select board.
Yeah, and that
Gift
was the
account, right?
analysis
So
Brandy
part of
did,
it is,
yeah.
part of it is, we don't want to give out more than half of what we have. So if we're making those higher, if we were to make that higher, we would be able to do less of them, or fewer, right?
Yeah.
If we have 10 people looking for $1,000, that's $10,000. If we have 10 people looking for $2,000,
Yeah, all right, so, and Brandy, your analysis showed that it really should be as low as $1,000, and I just I don't remember what the typical grant has been. Is that a big decrease in what we've done in the past?
So,
Trying to remember.
I didn't go back and look to see
Yeah.
this last time around what the requests were, but generally speaking, the, you know, we see these requests for, like, the Ashland Public Library. We see it for,
I'm thinking of like
the fire station needed some things for the opening of,
their open house and
yeah.
stuff.
so small, relatively small.
the community gardens
I know
or corner
Julie's
spot.
like a typical person who's not a nonprofit that does these classes,
Yeah.
Right.
which I think are a great thing, so I don't know. And I don't recall offhand how much she requests for that.
But they're generally relatively small amounts.
All right. Okay, so, Joe, anything else? All right. Are we ready to
Good.
consider this?
Yeah,
Ready when you.
I would move that we approve the changes as recommended and written and presented for
Second.
our BAA grant program.
So the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
And
Motion
thank you to
passes.
Brandy for writing
Yeah.
this up and
Thank
working with
you, and-
Susan.
Yeah, and Susan, and great job.
Nicely done.
All right,
Very thorough.
you guys designed a system you're going to implement, so.
And I like
So-
the new application as well.
I was gonna say,
Oh, I
so
didn't
we
even
didn't talk
look
about
at
the
it. Oh, there it is.
application at all.
Yes,
but,
go ahead.
But Susan had put together a new application.
Yeah, let's take it.
And the only thing I would ask, and I'm looking at this and I didn't get a chance to review it before the meeting, so I apologize, but are we, because I know here on the first page it says, are you a qualifying 501c3? And it says no, then no, do not proceed. I think we still want the
And
applicant.
do not proceed. Whoops.
I think we do want them to apply, or are we gonna do a separate application, Susan? What was your thought?
What my thought was is to do two separate ones.
Okay.
Yeah, this one
Because
says
you're
nonprofit.
changing up the criteria on the maximum allowed.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I thought we could be more specific that way.
Gotcha, okay.
Then maybe just we could put a link to the other,
Yeah, or some
to
instruction
the
to
other
go to other
application, or at least,
applications.
so they don't go away sad.
Jeez, yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I'd like to post them both. I just didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, of course.
All right,
of
very
course.
good.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure like that we had another kind of venue for those.
So my recommendation, if we're gonna have two of them, Susan, is that when you go to apply, it's very, there's two of them there, and one of them is for nonprofit organizations, and then it has the criteria for that.
So you choose
And the
the
other
right
one is
one.
for regular and what the criteria is and the potential that you can apply for. Makes it much if it's nice and clear and well spelled out.
Okay, well, thank you. And then I have opened the fall BA grant round submission due date of October 6th. So do we need to vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
any
yeah.
further discussion about that? Does that all make sense? Due date October 6th will work?
I guess my only question to Susan is, will everything be up? How quickly will you get these two new forms up? And does October 6th, it gives them about a month. Does that work?
I just threw that in as a date. It's completely up to you guys. You run into Columbus Day with the October 6th.
When
Your
is
meeting
Indigenous
would be the
Peoples' Day?
18th, so you could make it due anytime after the 6th if you wanted to. But if you want to vote on it, I would say try to vote on it by the 18th. Otherwise, you're getting too late.
Okay.
October 18th.
So does that
or
work for you guys? If it's a deadline of October 6th, and then you would have like a week and a half to review and
Yeah, we could do
Yeah.
that.
have them ready
Yeah.
to present at the October 18th meeting?
Very
And maybe Michael could send the actual, even, links or attachments out this week in his email.
Oh, I thought you were just like sending something out generally. I'm not
No,
good
as,
tech.
as part of the,
No.
as part of your
Newsletter.
account,
The
your
newsletter.
town
Yeah.
manager's
Perfect.
email, let people know that,
Sure.
a link to the changes and,
Well, good.
Sweet.
All right, so.
You know what? Could I just say one thing? Could we change the date to the 10th, just to give a little bit of breathing room?
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
So do we
All
need
right.
to make a motion?
Yes,
I move that we open up the Fall BAA grant program with a submission due date of Tuesday, October 10th at 5 PM. Does that work, Susan? Okay.
Okay, I'll second that.
motion's been made and seconded to open the BA Fall Grant Round on October 10th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Okay.
All right, that passes. Okay, the next item is to discuss the closure of the MBTA station, renovations, timeline, and impacts. Okay, so we'd, I think, just suggest to put this on to kind of update and discuss whatever we needed to. I don't know if anyone has anything new to talk about with that, or updates. Michael, Brandy, me?
I do know that the Framingham lot was full today.
Oh, was it?
Packed. I talked to Dennis Giambetti. He was going to send something to the MBTA, letting them know, like, hey,
Okay.
this thing is full. It would really be nice if you could open up Ashland Station.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Have we, and, I don't, Brandy, have you been to the station lately? Do you have anything to report?
So I was there yesterday, and I literally, driving to Framingham is, like, I gotta build in more time, but that's a whole
Yeah,
nother,
right,
that's a whole nother
right.
thing, but, I ended up missing the express train, the 740 express train. Literally, I pulled into the lot and it was leaving, so, but, I was all the way in the backup parking at the banana lot at 740. Like, that
Yeah.
was,
So that's filling up. Yep.
so, you were saying that the parking lot was full. It was probably full by 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, it was,
That's interesting.
so,
Okay.
I did hear from, Sandra Montesino over at Daniel's Table. They're renting spots too. So I don't know if maybe, and I know the city of Framingham has some lots. I don't know what their capacity looks like, but, it might not be a bad idea, if, we want to put together like a one-page sheet of just like other
Where there's-
options for people, like, and post it, You know, it doesn't have to be a lot of information, and we don't have to be in the parking business, but
Yeah.
just
Like the Columbus
resources.
Club and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if we, create like some listing or something like that we could put.
Yeah. I did not, so I can report on Southborough. I was there today, and it's still not quite full, at least when they had maybe they have 10 spaces left.
Well, now it will be.
Now that
Yeah.
I'll be there tomorrow. What the hell?
No spots.
But, yeah, so I don't know, so there is some space available there, but it's not a ton of space. I'll call, I did not hear back from Mike Muller about his discussion with the construction company, but I think part of it was that I think they're waiting to see how things work out, but it sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like Framingham is full, but I'm not sure, are we hearing a lot of complaints, and, I'm not sure we'd hear it anyway, but.
No, I wish we knew how many spots short we are, because it would certainly make it easier to try to tackle the problem or make
Tomorrow's
suggestions.
Thursday, yeah. But it sounds, you were there at what time in
Yes,
Framingham?
yesterday at 7:40 in the morning.
So that's kind of on the later side of Boston commuters, right?
That is right after, literally, right after the last express train that
Yeah,
really,
so it's kind of-
well, actually, there's but there's a lot of, there's an 8 o'clock train that I ended up on that was pretty packed out
Yeah.
of Framingham, so
Well, what did
there's,
those people do?
I don't know.
Full at that point? Hmm,
so,
interesting.
I'll
Just
let
have to
you
work
know.
from home a little more, Brandy.
Oh, my God. Like, I gotta go in tomorrow, I'm already dreading,
There's
I'm
a
already
reason
dreading
to
going to Framingham.
Get there at 6, anyway. The Columbus Club, is that pretty full now? We put that out?
No,
No?
they're still advertising.
Okay, so.
They're still advertising.
To
There
Brandy's
are
point,
several,
we could
there's
try to-
about maybe
Yeah.
20 to 25 spaces available.
Maybe that's
And-
something
and
going in the
Any
newsletter.
spaces in Ashland are absolutely out of the question.
No, they're not, but I think they want to be pushed to do it, Oh, you mean aside from the station? I don't think we have anything available. Like Burnham's
No, I
isn't
meant
out.
at the station.
Yeah, no, I think
Because I
that-
know that when they've coned, so you can't, when you come down Memorial Drive, you
Yeah.
can't go to the right, but you can go to the left, which is the
That's still
smaller
open. I haven't-
parking.
That's funny, that's still open, so you could kind of sneak in there.
Yeah, but then what do you do?
No, the
There's
shuttle's
shuttle.
there.
Well, does the shuttle go down into the lot and turn around? Is that what it does?
Yes, it sits there. It
Okay.
sits there.
All
Well,
right.
when last time I saw him, which was a while ago, a week ago,
And
he
the
sits
shuttle is
right in front of them.
only on the Memorial Drive side, right?
Correct.
Because they
Yes.
have the parking lot on the Pleasant Street
All right.
side that you would think if, I mean, like.
Everybody thought that that's where it was gonna be.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So,
Well, I'll call them again and see, maybe they have more information, and maybe, with this information that Framingham is looking full, maybe we can get them to do something.
yeah, I think putting together a list of resources is a good idea.
Yeah, that's good.
And, because, Burnham's is available.
You think, would it be available if we were to say to them, look, they want to, they'd open it up, you think, or?
So look, it's been open. The only thing is that they didn't necessarily want us to include that in their message
Right.
leading up to the construction period.
But
Well,
people
I
could
think-
potentially buy monthly passes there, if he, assuming.
Yeah,
it's
Susan
done.
he does monthly, right?
That's the way he
Yeah.
does it,
Yeah.
that's the way he
Yes.
does it.
But you just can't get over. You can't get over to the other side.
Yeah, so they'd
Unless
have
the
to, they'd have
shuttle-
to
They'd have to
change
bring the
it.
shuttle
They'd have
down.
to
Yeah,
bring the
Right, the
shuttle.
so
shuttle
that's
would have
one
to come
thing,
around to the
you
other
could
side.
propose if Burnham's is open with how many, does he have like 50 spaces?
It's got a good amount of space.
Yeah, he's got a
More
fair
than
amount.
So if he's willing to sell monthly permits, you get a permit, you're good. And if you don't,
Would you
don't
walk up
park
High
there.
Street and go down?
No, the shuttle should then come to the other side as
It
well.
would have to come to the other side.
can't
They'd
get-
have to change the way they're doing it.
Yeah, I'm just saying if they don't.
Yeah, that's a
would you be
long
able to
walk,
It's not,
I think. Oh,
Not
you mean
that
High
far.
Street?
Down the
Go up
little
High
road
Street and
from
then
High
come down
Street.
the little road from High
Assuming they
Street.
keep it open though, like this whole thing was supposed to be shut down, so I don't know. But yeah, I guess presumably.
You
somebody
can
could
walk around the gate, Rob.
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Oh, yeah, you can walk around the
Gates
gate.
open half the time anyways. I've noticed that in the morning, I don't know.
Well, they finally closed it when they started this construction.
Yeah, no, it's been open again
It's
in
been
the
open
morning,
again.
so
This
I
is
don't
great.
know if some of the workers come in that way or what. I was trying to
great.
figure that
You
out.
see some of the headlines and you go, yeah,
Well,
I
that's-
understand
okay.
now.
All right, well, I'll give Mike Muller another call and see what they're thinking, if anything. I don't know, but it sounds like we're getting full capacity. Okay,
Sounds like
anything
they're
else?
all,
Probably would
they're all
be a-
coming to Southborough now, Rob.
Yeah, next, come to Southborough,
It probably
yes.
wouldn't be a bad idea to keep some kind of pressure on them too,
Yeah.
so that they move in a timely fashion.
Well, has anyone actually, I have not visually seen what they're doing. Has anyone seen?
I've seen today,
Yep.
there was definitely some work in there. I'm
Oh.
not sure what it was, but there was, looks like they're still moving in supplies to me, Joe.
Yeah, they were moving in supplies, but they were also taking out a lot of the stairs,
Oh,
pedestrian crossover. They were taking all those out.
good.
I'll go down and take some
That's
pictures.
good, yeah.
I was there today, I get yelled at.
You got yelled at? Who yelled
I
at
get
you?
yelled at. Oh, somebody in a green vest, and I said, okay, I don't need this.
I
But,
don't yelled at him. All right. All right, so I think we're done with this one. Anything
Okay.
else? All right. So I think, Michael, you wanted to discuss the all-premise liquor license, or?
Yeah, it just, after talking to a few of you, I'm just going to preface this by saying I don't think this is something that you want to do. But there is the opportunity for the board to issue all premises licenses, which basically doesn't restrict alcohol to a certain area, but is allowed across the whole premises. You think about something like the Fish and Game Club, where they have a large tract of land. If you issue an all-premises license there, people could presumably go up, into the woods. You wouldn't know if something was happening or not happening. It seems like a very, very loose way of doing things, which seems to be antithetical to what the board has traditionally done. That being said, Susan has done a little research. I don't think she came up with much about communities that do utilize this, and Susan can share that with you. Susan, would you mind?
No, thanks, Michael. Ultimately, what I found out is I reached out to my listserv. There was only one community that I could find that currently has this, and that's Situate. They have 2 golf courses in their community. One is privately owned, one's publicly owned, and in both cases, they have a liquor license that covers the entire area. All the other towns that I spoke to all do things very similar to the way we do it, where they have a liquor license that covers a specific facility. If you do an all alcohol license, it becomes a bit of a management nightmare. Whoever the license is under their name, they're responsible for where that alcohol goes. And we have an establishment that's looking to do that. I have not seen what their plan is, if they have a management plan in place, but I didn't want to pursue it without bringing it to your attention to find out if it was something you were even interested in entertaining.
So I find it interesting, Michael, that you say no to this. And the reason I think about the Warren Conference Center, right? And we want to be, we want to be able to work with them, and they have their lodge, the lodge and the hotel currently have the liquor license, so they can do stuff in those 2 locations. They've already come to us to see if they can do something in the White House in the front, and they have their tent. And I think about it, okay, if I'm having a wedding and I'm in the White House for part of it, and then I go to the tent for another part of it, if I could, walk with my glass of wine or walk with my champagne, I think, again, not for everybody, and maybe not the Fish and Game because of the woods and stuff like that, but I think for an organization like the Warren Conference Center, this could be beneficial to them. It could allow them potentially to increase their rentals and increase the ability to have more events going on at the same time if they could have this sort of all-premise.
Remember, they
License.
could be potential competitors of ours in the near future.
I'm not too concerned.
Okay. Okay.
So that, based on, what we had talked about at the agenda-setting meeting, I think it's something
Totally fine.
that with the Warren Conference Center in particular, I think it would be a benefit to them, which in turn would be a benefit to the town.
Are they the ones that are asking?
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
They're looking
I
at
was
it.
gonna say, what are the other
Is that right?
applications? potentially. for this.
So what happens if people take booze down to the water and an accident happens? And then, like, I'm just thinking
Drinking on the
liabilities.
beach, Yeah, drinking on the beach. That's
It's
actually
their-
state land. The beach is state
Sierra
property.
owns that property.
So they would probably be prohibited. It's not their property, right?
Well, they have some
They
kind
do
of
run events that include the
access
beach.
to the beach.
Yeah,
right.
well, does that give them that's interesting. So they have some sort of lease or arrangement with DCR. I
Right.
just don't know if it would
Yeah.
include drinking alcohol, having alcohol on the beach. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
I
that's one
see
of
it
the
as an-
potential things that you could look at is
Yeah.
when they roll out a management plan, maybe you restrict. If they give you a map and you could say, well, you can only do this area. You can't
Right.
do your whole 50 acres or whatever they
Right. You
have.
can't have it on the ropes course or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
Right.
I wanna-
I just know, like, with outdoor spaces, the board has generally been, strict is not the right word, but just,
We have delimited, like the corner spot.
yeah, I mean, you've definitely.
But we've also,
delineated.
with the corner spot, we've let it grow a little bit, right? It used to be a very little section, and then we realized that that didn't make sense. So now it's basically the whole corner spot. So we looked at it, we made one decision, and then we're like, wait a second, if people want to get food and sit at the tables, they need to be able to bring their beer there. So we've looked at that. I don't know. I think it's something we should consider, but that's just me.
And so how would it work in general, though? Like, so we would have, what, X number of these types of licenses, or could any license be converted to this?
Yeah, Susan, did you ever get any guidance on how many of the, or is it just you could do any of your all alcohol licenses is all premises?
Correct. Ultimately, when you approve a liquor license, part of the application is the area in which you're licensing. So in most spaces, it'll say the building is located in a strip mall. It consists of so many square feet, this many exits. In a situation like this, it's the same exact type of license, only the outline of the property you're licensing would be a much larger footprint. It may consist of 5 different buildings and so many acres and
Well, that might
all
work.
of that.
I mean, I think about it when we started looking at outdoor dining, right? When we had to help our restaurants because of COVID, right? The ability to then have their business and have their liquor licenses outside. I mean, I think about TJ's, how now they have that beautiful parking lot. I think about Ashland Ale House, and they have their patio. And to me, this would be something that would potentially help the Warren Conference Center.
So, in
And-
part of this, we define where they could serve.
Right,
Is that
it sounds like we could do that. We could look at their map and say, okay, cut it off at the beach, cut it off at different areas, but like I said, they have that tent out there that they can't serve alcohol at right now. But if they could, that could potentially, it could expand the number of events they're having where they could be serving alcohol.
Other thoughts, or, I'm not sure how this fits in. We would, go ahead, Joe.
I do have a question with respect to that, and Yolanda brought up a pretty good point with respect to that. Having those liquor licenses in and around those general areas, what's the liability? We offer that to the client that wants to expand their area of operation to serve alcohol. Is the town, are we in receipt of an insurance binder that holds the town harmless? And I'll use the corner spot for an example. The property is owned by the Affordable Housing Trust, and is the Affordable Housing Trust named as another group that's not held liable in this insurance policy? Is that something we have to look at each individual request for that, so that the town doesn't become responsible or liable? Because right now, anybody's looking to sue anybody, it's deep pockets, and nobody is without that. So I just want to make sure that everyone is covered by it. And we don't
Isn't the
find ourselves-
liability on the business that's serving the alcohol?
Carry insurance.
Right, I would think that as these breweries or whoever come into the corner spot, they have liability insurance for their business and for what they're doing.
But
It
still
wouldn't be any
town
different than
property.
at the Warren Conference Center now. They have liability for what they're doing, even if it's on our property.
Boy, you know what?
That
I
would
would
be
think.
one of the requirements of the one-day
Yeah.
liquor license.
do
Right,
is
right. With the one-day liquor
some kind of
license, they have
insurance.
to have insurance.
I just want to make sure that we're not opening up Pandora's box here with respect to that, that's all.
Now,
So-
if you, so the way the liquor license works is that if you have a liquor license for, say, the White Building on the Warren Conference Center property, you can't take a drink outside of the building?
I don't know that.
I believe that's
I
the
believe
case.
that's the case, right? Which, like I said, when we
So if you
opened up-
had, if you
premises.
allowed for them to have a liquor license for any place on the property where they set up a tent,
Well, right
then
now,
you
we would
can't
have to
walk
be
outside
sep-
the tent?
It would
I
have,
mean-
and it would have, right now, it would have to be separate. So right now, they have a liquor license that covers the lodge and the hotel,
right,
right? Those are
Yep.
considered one thing.
Right.
And they're looking to have a liquor license for the White House.
okay.
Because there's no connection, they'd have to have a separate liquor license, similar to what we just did with the Ashland Fish and Game, right? They have their main building, and now they have the pavilion.
Right.
Those, because they're separate, they each have to have a liquor license. By doing this premise liquor license, everything on the property, as we define it, could have one liquor license.
Right. Well, I was just thinking if you gave them a liquor license as well for any place on the property where they had to set up a tent, right? So that would give them the flexibility of putting the tent wherever, and-
Right.
but yet it had to be, I don't know, if you could do something like that.
Claudia, that is a possibility. They opted to not do that. They said they haven't had requests for liquor in their tent, so we don't currently license the tent.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So why do they need an all-premise then?
Because they wanted to add a members lounge in that White House,
Oh.
and they thought, rather than having to come back at some other point to add on, if they found that they wanted to, say they wanted to add a patio to that building, every time they make a modification to something, they have to come back
Right,
and get
right.
that included. So they thought this would cover them if they could cover the entire property.
Got it.
You're muted, Joe.
Thank you.
So my question is if we would allow this for one premises, would that open it up for us to have to deny or like, so, you know, because I can see your point about the Warren Conference Center, but I also worry about like other spaces and whether or not that would open up this huge can of worms about, you know, whether it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, how does
And that's
this
a
work?
question. So would that be something that people would then check off that they want it on
An all-premise.
an all-premise
So-
as part of their license?
So that's my question, so it's not a separate, it's not like in a separate list, it's any license could be an all-premise license, Susan, is that it, if they ask for it?
That is correct. When they put in the description of their property,
Oh, all right.
they would include exactly what they want included.
All right, and so we would then decide whether to grant them an all-premise or a different kind of license, I guess.
Right, and you certainly would also need to require them some sort of management plan. How are they going to control the liquor?
So, is this, so what are we thinking of doing with this? Just allowing them to apply for an all-premise and thinking about it? Is that
Yeah, I
considered
mean,
it?
I think, you know, if you're dead set against doing an all premises license, which it doesn't sound like you are dead set against it, then we would communicate that to the Warren Conference Center and any future party that might request it. But if you want to say, hey, let's look at this on a case-by-case basis, have them submit an application. You'll have an opportunity to hear it and make some adjustments and changes as you see fit.
I think on a case-by-case basis makes sense, right? Depending on the business, depending on what they're doing, depending on their, you know, I think, as we know, not everything is the same, right? We've looked at some business and we've changed their hours. We haven't allowed them to go as late as we could, or we've curtailed it, different things. So I think if we are open to it and at least then work with them potentially if they really want it, it could be a positive for them.
And maybe to that point, we, build in what we did with Fish and Game. We review
Right,
it on a
right.
regular basis.
Exactly.
Instead of just letting them kind of go and,
Right, instead of,
good luck to you.
instead of in December, we just automatically renew everybody. We read our list, with some of these ones that we are concerned about in November, before we renew in
Yeah.
December, we do a review. Has there been complaints? Have there been issues? How many times have the police been called? Whatever. Has there been accidents related to the alcohol? And if there hasn't been, okay, then we renew it again for a year.
I mean, I would be open to doing it on a case-by-case basis.
Others, thoughts? Claudia, Joe? What do you guys think?
I'll let Claudia go first.
Yeah,
She's
no,
there.
I would be open to it. I mean, and I think it would have to be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, it makes it more challenging for us at times, but too bad. If we think it would work in one place and not in the other, then I think we have to be prepared to explain our rationale.
And I'll add just one more step to that. I don't see why we shouldn't ask legal counsel for an opinion with respect to that. We have that available to us.
Sure.
So that we're on terra firma when we make those decisions, so it doesn't go back to bite us in the derriere when it hits the fan.
Yeah, are you talking about the whole concept or on a case-by-case basis? Or
Case by
both?
case basis.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no,
So
case by case basis.
Right now, we
sure.
don't need to, okay.
The other thing we're gonna have to think about is the Valentine barn is a town property. To be able to rent that for weddings, we're gonna have to be able to offer alcohol on town
How does
property.
that work? We issue a license to ourselves? Is that the deal?
We generally don't allow any alcohol
Right.
Right.
in town buildings. I
Well,
think
the-
it's a bylaw, right? Is it a bylaw?
The recreation.
Our
No,
policy.
because we
Center.
allow alcohol at the corner spot.
Right,
But it's not a
town
not at the
building.
senior center.
Yeah, it's not a
Oh,
town building.
but the license
Can you
is
get a
held by the
one-day
vendor.
license at the senior center? You used
I
to be able
don't
to.
think so.
No?
Not since I've been here, can you get a one-day license at the
Interesting.
seniors?
I forgot
You
that.
can't serve alcohol
But
at the
right now, the
senior
corner
center.
spot, it's the vendor that gets the license,
Right.
not the town.
Right,
So I don't know, it's something to think about when we get that far.
yep.
Okay.
Few
But-
kegs in
well,
the Valentine.
But
bar.
but you're saying when we get that far, we have to think about it. No, we need to start thinking about it because
Now,
if we're proposing
figure
spending
it out.
all kind of money on turning that into a venue where we can rent
Right,
it
I guess
out,
I'm just assuming.
we gotta
we'll
be able to serve alcohol.
Right,
there.
I guess I'm assuming we'll be able to figure it
No.
out. Yeah, no, the reason I said it is because I think we're gonna be able to solve that one.
Well,
Other
then
people
again,
will.
doesn't it just become a one-day license for somebody at the Valentine estate, the same as it does at Corner Spot? And it's their liability and everything?
We'll have some time to.
Yeah,
figure all
no, I
that
know,
out.
but I think it,
No, everybody's
But-
going California sober now, so I don't even know
California
if we.
sober, I'd forgotten that one.
California
All right,
sober.
have you got enough out of this one? You guys know what, I think we're kind of willing to approach this
Yeah, I
concept,
think-
right?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody good with that? We can
Yep.
move on. Looking for people interested in running the Boston Marathon. Okay, start working out, you guys. All right, here we go.
not happening.
Yeah, I know some people have already expressed interest.
Yeah, so
Um,
what's this about, or just to try to drum up interest in our bibs?
Susan, you were really just thinking about this from a notification standpoint, right? And starting
That's
to get the
correct.
word
I
out.
just don't want anyone to say, I wish I knew about it.
Oh, yeah, all right.
So we'll start, if you're
everybody-
okay
good,
with it,
good.
we'll start advertising.
Yeah, that's great.
So we're looking for 12 people or more. And what date, when do you usually pull the names, Susan?
So I have submission is October 15th, and then we'll pull it within a couple of days after that.
Okay, so if people are interested, they need to email you that they're interested by October 15th.
Yes, and there is a link on the website where they can fill out the form, and it'll automatically submit to me.
Perfect.
And Susan, is this Ashland residents only, except for the Nord people? Remind me how that,
No, anybody can apply. What we do is we give preference to employees and Ashland residents. Everybody's name gets drawn. They either get awarded a BAA invitational bib, or they get waitlisted.
okay, great. That's a good thing I put out.
If you like to run
Yeah,
and you want to fundraise.
yeah. Okay, so the next is the consent agenda, which is a long list. There is I just want to note that the firefighters grant, Michael is going to talk about that under town manager report. So does anybody want to hold any of these or discuss any of these separately?
Nope.
All right,
I
so
move
I'll
that
ask
we
for a
approve the
motion.
consent agenda as presented.
The motion to approve the consent agenda has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Joe, you good? Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Consent agenda is approved. Okay, that gets us to town manager report.
Yeah, so, obviously I have these items listed. I have a couple of others if you'll indulge me as well. But, first, we'll get with all the good news. How's that? So update on the downtown project. So everybody knows they've paved. Hallelujah.
Saw that.
Everything. I will have to say the paving job this time was much better than the last time. We actually made them repave a section of Front Street because we weren't too happy with the results. But I really have to give a big shout out on the paving to Mike Carter, who is our new construction administrator, and Kevin Langmeyer from our DPW. Kevin kind of went out there on his own time all overnight, and he really, really did a good job kind of overseeing some of that work. Currently, they're working on the crosswalks, so they've done.
They're so
Thanks.
cool.
Yeah, they I had an idea that would really make it pop, and
I'm gonna look at those.
it's stamped asphalt. The way they do it's incredible. So they have done. They've done water.
Front Street there.
They did Concord in front today?
Yeah, because it was done yesterday. I took a picture,
Or yesterday?
It might have been done over the weekend even. I took a picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It might have been the first one they did, because I didn't
Okay.
see any others.
Yeah, they've done
cool.
the ones on Water and Main, and then they just did the crossing here at Town Hall as well. So they'll be finishing up the crosswalks and then moving on to doing the medians, where it has that just asphalt right now. That'll be done as cobblestone. So
Nice.
it looks good. Then they have to do landscaping. Got to put up a guardrail, do some landscaping, punch list items, and then Giosio's contract will be done. Yeah, it looks great.
It looks great.
Oh, that's very nice. I'll have to take-
Sunday it was done.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, so, and then, the next phase is the building connections to the utilities underground, and then removing the poles.
Great.
So, great to see that happen.
Do you see?
Hey.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe. Do you have
Now, you were probably going to ask the same question, Rob. Do you have a timetable as to when that's going to happen?
I'm
I'm sorry.
going to try to learn from previous mistakes, and I'm going to say October 31st for the streetscape work to be done.
Okay. And do you see a lot of traffic reduction or traffic delays from the work they have left to do?
I don't.
Because I got to speed through on my way to Southborough.
Yeah, I mean, if
I felt like I was speeding through town like
If
I hadn't
we-
in a long time today.
yeah, we have to do the painting, so hopefully we'll be able to do that at night.
Because
and
it's
that
been
would
flowing
limit
pretty
impacts.
well lately. That's my impression.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
They've done a great job, but it's coming
The train
together.
doesn't wait for you,
It's coming together. It's funny, on Friday when they did the crosswalks at Water Street, I walked down there to see, and it's great. I mean, you get the aspects of the downtown project that are done. You see the sluiceway we got the bids for that and opened, and that's I think we're on. Did I sign the contract? Yeah, I signed the contract.
And what are they doing with that again?
So what they're going to do is they're going to rebuild the observation platform.
Okay.
And then where the sluiceway was, they're going
That's
to make a
become
walkway.
the walkway. Okay, cool.
Interesting.
And it won't, you'll still see like the stone of the sluiceway.
It's exterior.
Okay, perfect.
Granite ones. So you see that, and then you see, what we did recently with the Mill Pond Park renovation and everything. You're just like, oh, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
That's great.
And, it gets you excited. Speaking of excited, Mendez School opened up, a huge milestone yesterday, really without incident. Just have to give a big shout out to Paul Kendall and the building committee, as well as the school committee and the select board, and all of our staff and the project management team or project team that worked on this. Another piece of two pieces of news. There will be the open house this coming Saturday, and then also, Rob, you were on this email. Brandy, I think you were on this email. But we got an email recently from the MSBA saying that in recent legislation that was passed, $100 million was put in the MSBA budget to pay for cost increases and escalations in previously approved projects. And it looks like we're going to be eligible for that.
Yeah,
So-
Paul forwarded that to the building committee, so that at our next meeting, we're gonna review that.
You know, the number that has been thrown about has been in the $3 million range for increased reimbursement.
Wow.
Big thanks to Senate President Spilka and Jack Lewis, Representative Lewis, for what they did. But just another huge milestone for the town. We've had a few of them this year with the public safety building and downtown, and now Mendez. So ancillary to Mendez is we have to pay for it. So we do have our last borrowing associated with this coming up next week, and so we're looking at about a $20 million issue. That might be a little bit too much. What we're doing is we're doing it as a short-term borrowing. Then once we know for sure what kind of reimbursement we're getting and what the final costs are, we can, permanently borrow that for whatever we need.
Any
So-
concern that doing short-term and then waiting, our interest rates are gonna be that much higher, or?
It's something we were talking about today, wrestling with. Do we do a 3-year term? Do we do a 5-year term? I think we'll stick with the 3-year, which
Okay.
will give us, we can go out to bond any time
Okay,
between that period.
okay.
But we got our ratings call on Friday, and those are always a little nerve-wracking. S&P will analyze our, everything, like our economics and our management profile and our budgetary performance, and hopefully we'll still end up with a AAA rating. So,
That's this Friday?
yeah, this Friday we'll have the ratings call. So,
Do you think the shutdown will, did they even mention that at all? Is it on their radar screen?
which shutdown, Rob?
The
There's a
federal.
few.
There's others?
There's a few.
I'm thinking about the
I'm
federal
thinking of the
government.
UAW strike, shutting everything
Yeah,
down
right.
there, so.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that's starting to make the rounds, the potential
yet.
government shutdown.
This
Yeah.
is an annual, actually almost a semi-annual.
I know, isn't it? That's depressing, but true.
That's what we've come to.
Yeah.
They still have a couple months to figure something out,
Yeah, and they will.
right? Isn't it the end of October?
Maybe.
Or is it
I
October?
thought it was
First.
less
End
than
of
that.
October.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, is it
good.
October 1st?
Let's
Okay.
be optimistic, why not?
Sure. Rob, what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right.
There you go.
So next is the update on the grand reopening of the community center. So that's going to be on September
very nice.
12th. Had to do a lot of work based on the flooding. I don't know if you had an opportunity to get over there, but it looks like a new building, even though it's not. One of the things we did find through this process is just the construction methodology back in the day was not good. So we had to do a lot of repair work that wasn't necessarily directly related to the flood, but it
Oh.
allowed us to see that. So, but anyway, it's an exciting time. It looks great in there. So, hopefully, some of you or all of you will be able to go to that.
Yeah, maybe, I have some meetings, but I'm hoping to stop by probably on the later side.
Awesome. And then, so Rob, you had mentioned the Assistance for Firefighters grant for $921,000, almost $922,000. So that is a shared grant between Ashland, Hopkinton, and Southborough Fire Departments. So basically, it's for the air packs, the breathing apparatus, which is very, very expensive. I think ours is pretty outdated, 15 years old. I think Southborough is around the same time. This is great. We're all going to be buying the same pack, so when we show up at the scenes, you know, if we show up at a scene
to share.
together, we could, you know, reuse that and everybody knows how to use
great.
it. So congratulations to Chief Roby. And
Who was there a lead town or?
we're the lead
Okay.
community for this.
Nice.
But Chief Roby, Deputy Chief Moorhan, and Captain Boland really have to give them a lot of credit for getting this. This is a big grant. This is saving
Well,
us a lot of
and
money.
to work regionally, I think, is so important for something like this, because I'm sure if it had just been Ashland, we might not have gotten it. But by reaching out to the other communities and working with them, I'm
Yeah.
sure it made it more appealing to the
great.
whoever was giving this. Is this a federal grant?
This
or-
is federal.
Yeah.
It's through FEMA, actually.
Okay.
Southborough actually a couple years ago tried to get this on their own, and they were
Yeah.
denied.
Yeah.
So that's really, really good.
Is it appropriated already? I'm just
Funny,
going-
a little budget
Well,
humor there.
It could, anything could happen, yeah.
So just a couple more things. So first of all, we're getting confirmation as to whether or not it's still going to happen because of the event or because of the rain. But the Stone Park Music Festival is happening at Stone Park at 3 o'clock. So on Saturday, and that's really geared towards classical music. Grace Sunjun Moon, who is an Ashland resident, and also teaches at Center Music, has organized and directed this. She's really put together an all-star ensemble to do some performances.
Nice.
So hopefully they have a piano competition, which they'll be doing the
Are they
awards for.
bringing in piano? Are they doing the competition at
No,
the
the
site?
competition was done before.
Oh, okay.
so,
I was gonna say, that's,
that would be cool. We could put it in the gazebo. Yeah. So there's that. Another really good thing is, I don't know if all of you know Natalia Melnick. I know Claudia knows her. She's a sophomore at Ashland High School. She is looking at doing this Sending Sunshine program.
yeah, she reached
where-
out to
Oh, yeah,
us.
that was the
Yeah.
one we.
And so she is, basically, you have teens, and it doesn't have to be teens, it can be adults too, that write cards that go to seniors, and, you know, just encouraging messages. So we've worked together, and we'll be holding the first session September 14th at 5 o'clock at the Corner Spot. And we also have some dates scheduled with Mina. So if you can stop by, that'd be great. You know,
What time?
5 o'clock. Yeah, Natalia's cool. She actually started her own ice cream business like a few years ago, and it actually does really, really well. So
Cool.
Natalia's Treats, I think that's what it is. So awesome work on her behalf. And then we get to end on this note. You know that we've had some vandalism issues recently, and unfortunately, we had vandalism at the Nyanza Memorial Site within the last couple of days. It's disturbing, it's disappointing, especially because we were looking at refreshing that and hoping to have it open in time for Kevin Kane's the 25th anniversary of his passing. Obviously, we won't be able to do that now because we're going to look at having to replace the sign that we did and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, I will say that I'm going to talk to the chief about this tomorrow. It's gotten to a point where I think we really need to start cracking down and not necessarily look at diversion programs and, you know, play nicey.
Do we know
this.
who's, I mean, do you have an idea who's doing it? And
We don't for this one.
Oh.
We did for the Stone Park vandalism that happened, which actually happened throughout town. Remember the little house in the town forest?
Yes.
Got hit, some people's homes.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
all right, well,
So that's unfortunate. And so one thing just related to that is at the last meeting, you voted, I didn't catch this, you voted to do the $5,000 grant for the Kevin Kane Memorial Fund as a reimbursement grant which makes things complicated. I hope you'd be amenable to just doing the grant the way we typically do it, which is just get the information, put them in as a vendor, and send them a check. You know, is that amenable to?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not even,
I thought we
yeah,
just.
I didn't even, yeah, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I didn't catch it, so.
So, yeah, that's,
okay.
do we need to change something, do anything? Or do you need to,
I don't think it's
Okay.
really necessary, so.
all right, I think we're all good with that, right?
Yeah. And let's see. That's what I have. Do you have anything, JD?
Any update on the wasps?
Well, I think we found the nest. It's actually a little bit away from the trees, but continuing to diagnose. And
These are yellow jackets? You've had a yellow jacket nest?
all different kinds, Rob. All different kinds.
But the nest you found, though, that's what I'm,
Yes.
usually typical, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just getting my
So
own.
what do we,
My
does
own
somebody come and
information.
take it away, or?
No, you spray it, actually
We
it's pretty
are-
effective to spray them.
So-
and
We've
kill
been
them.
using traps.
Just
and
to
we've
go
been
back,
using-
Michael, I'm looking at the minutes for the request for the 5,000. Made a motion to authorize funds to refresh the Nyanza Memorial from the Select Board gift account not to exceed $5,000, which was seconded by Ms. Kinsman.
Okay.
There's nothing that says
It's a reimbursement.
a reimbursement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that made
Michael,
that easy.
that came up because it was up to 5,000.
Not to
That's how-
exceed 5,000.
Right, so if
Yeah.
you're writing a check, the check would be in the amount of 5,000.
That's
What we
fine.
could do, though, is just we could do the 5,000, anything that's not spent, we could return.
Right.
It makes it a little bit more complicated.
Oh, I see,
Okay.
because it's not to exceed, it's like you have to come up with a.
Well, if we just do your way that you mentioned tonight, to become a vendor and to bill us,
Yeah,
then do
That
the
would work.
exact amount, right?
Yeah.
right.
Do the exact amount, we can
Yeah.
deposit it, and if they don't use it all, it would come back to us.
Right.
Because it's an up to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right,
That way we don't, that way they can be moving forward and not have to wait for our next meeting to vote something.
perfect. Thank you for looking.
You're welcome.
into that. And that's what I have.
Okay, thank you.
Teeing you up for board reports.
All right, so we'll start with board reports. Joe, you want to go first?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. Not a whole heck of a lot to report, other than traffic study committee meeting next week. Go over certain sidewalk discussions and new sign locations for probably pedestrian crosswalks. So that's one of the things we'll be doing. Affordable Housing Trust will, I apologize. We plan on getting off summer hiatus and getting back to the grind and trying to find a developer to start getting some affordable housing units back into town. And this is the last week that we'll be doing our fundraising for Ashland Day for the corn sales. They were very brisk this year, and thank you to everybody who helped contribute, and hopefully you enjoyed the fruits of our endeavors. The corn was very, very good this year, and we hope we'll be able to do it again next year. And Ashland Day is coming up September 23rd. Everything's coming along very nicely. This is time where whatever I have left on top of my head will be pulled out very quickly, because now everybody and their brother now wants to get involved, because now they know that it's actually happening, and it looks like the weather may hold out for us. So let's hope so.
Good.
And that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Claudia, you want to go next?
Yeah, I don't have too much. We were away for a while, but I
good.
was also excited this week about the opening of Mindas, and it was really something to see it come to fruition, and to see students, going into the building and coming out, and that big, huge loop that gets really most of the cars, if not all of them, off of Concord Street is pretty exciting. And I think, Mike, you thanked everybody, and certainly Paul, if you're still there, I try to thank you as often as I can, because he's just been amazing in this project, and the amount of hours he spent. And even yesterday, I saw him outside the school looking at how things were moving along, and I know he was in the building to make sure that the geothermal cooling system was working. We certainly put it to test this week. and very successfully, I understand.
That's great.
And so it really is, you know, really a testament to the community as a whole, and not only thank you to all the people who've worked so hard, but also to, you know, every single citizen in this community who's helped to make it such a great place for kids to learn and grow.
Great, thank you, Claudia. Randy?
Sure, thanks. Just a couple of things. One, I don't know if Michael, if you had mentioned the public tours that are happening at Minda's on Saturday.
Yeah, he did.
Did you? Okay, sorry. It's been a long week and it's only
Long
Wednesday.
night.
Yeah.
What are those, at like noon or something?
I think it's in the
12:30?
afternoon.
12:30 to
12:30.
4,
Yes.
the Mendez is
So
open to
someone
the
will be there
public.
Yeah.
giving tours all that time.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, you know, I would definitely, I'm going to bring my family along so that they can see the new building. So, which is great. Yolanda and I are doing office hours at the farmers market next Saturday morning,
The 16th.
the 16th. We haven't figured out, but like morning, 9 to 12, basically. And so that leaves one additional date for office hours at the farmers market before they close down, which is October 14th. We have the date. So I wanted to see if there were any takers that I'm not around that weekend, but if there were anyone that would be willing to offer their time to.
Because the
I'd be
7th, we
happy
have
to.
comprehensive plan at the farmer's
So
market.
Joe, you
Yes.
said, yeah, Joe sounded like he was interested.
I can't
Joe, you
I
can
can't
do
be
it.
there for the comprehensive plan
No,
on
I'll
the
be out of-
7th, but I could be there for the 14th.
We have an engagement on the 14th, so
Okay.
I could.
Okay. Okay,
I'm
so-
probably unavailable as well. But that's
So
good.
Joe and Yolanda,
Yeah.
does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay. I will let our marketing people know. And just want to let folks know that there is movie night at the Corner Spot this Friday night. So
That's right.
back to school, sponsored by the ABA. And I know Seti's Kitchen is going to be there with food, and WACA-TV always does a really great production there. So just want to encourage all the kiddos. The movie is Super Mario Brothers, so I haven't seen it, but I am assuming it's extremely kid-friendly. So come on down to the Corner Spot. And I know that there's a lot going on this weekend and a lot going on the next few weeks. So, and just I'm glad everyone's back at school, and hope everyone has a good, healthy school year, and hope this heat breaks soon for all the kiddos in the schools.
Yeah.
So that's it for me.
The
Great,
last
thank you.
hurrah of summer.
Oh, it's the only, feels like it's.
I know.
It waited
Just
till
gone
this
by.
week.
Yeah. All right, Yolanda.
So a couple things. This coming Saturday is the Kitty Fenwell Car Show from 9 to 1. If you want to just go look at the cars, that is free. If you want to bring a car, I believe it's $10. So that is always fun. And as I said, that starts at 9 o'clock. Later in September, the Metro West Regional Collaborative, we're having our first meeting. We've been off basically for the summer. It's a Zoom meeting. It'll be 8 to 9:30. If you're interested in getting the link for that, let me know and I'll get you on the list. Then we are having our Trails Summit. So the Metro West Regional Collaborative works with a lot of different groups. And on October 26th at Loring Arena, it's an in-person Trails Summit with David Lutzenheimer from MAPC, giving an update on the trails that have been created and how we're working regionally and even expanding outside of the region on the trails and the landline. So that's always a great event. And the event will start at Loring Arena, and then I believe there's a possibility to do a walk on part of the Framingham trails that have been created.
At what time is that?
I think it's starting at 8:30.
Oh, nice and early. Oh, that's
And if
good.
you're, it's like 8:30 to 10:30 is the speaking,
yeah.
and then if you have time, you can go on a walk. Then, Rob mentioned this earlier, we have our planning board joint meeting on September 14th. So we're scheduled to start at
Yeah, and I
7:15 with
can
them.
talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then just to let people know, so the YMCA is moving things forward. I think if you've driven on Memorial Drive, there's now a path up into the site, and they're still moving the project forward.
Saw those
And-
granite steps.
Yeah, and the Y will be having their dream auction on November 8th. which is a Wednesday, yeah, November 8th. So I know that's still far away, but I just want to get it on people's radar. Again, it's always a great event. It's fundraising for the Y and their programs, and
That's gonna be awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Do they have a timeline yet?
We're in the stages of getting the initial funding, so
Yeah.
that, you know, bigger donors. I think they're hoping, 2025 groundbreak, some kind of thing. And then no tickets available, but I just want to let people know John Oates is actually coming to Hopkinton Center for the Arts from Hall and Oates. This coming Saturday. It's their big fundraiser. Like I said, unfortunately, it's sold out, but I'm actually going to get a few minutes to interview him on Saturday, so you'll get to see a clip of that on Around the
We're all
Clock.
old,
If not
Claudia.
this show, the next show. So, so yeah, and that's it.
Great, thank you, Yolanda. My only item was just to remind folks about our meeting next Thursday, joint meeting with the planning board at 7:15 on Thursday. And I discussed with Tricia, here's the agenda we have, and she made a recent request. So I just, discussion topics. The first one, of course, the MBTA Communities Act, and then as time allows, interim zoning related to the comprehensive plan, other items of select board, planning board coordination and issues. So folks should think about what you want to talk to the planning board about. We've had some things that have come up. And then the fourth thing is the planning board associate member position. Now, I should say that their agenda for that night is really just us. So 7:15, they really don't, this is their full agenda. So they don't have other projects or anything, no. So if people are amenable to spending a little more time, we can. So, but I did want to, this planning board associate member position, typically that takes what, half an hour, 40 minutes?
Depends on how many people you have for appointments.
I think they're not gonna have more than 3, so, I know we talked about this like it is an hour, so what are people thinking?
I would like to keep it to an hour if we can, but that's my preference.
Other people, Joe, or?
Rob, everybody has a comment they're gonna wanna make, so I don't know. An hour's gonna do it. For me, an hour's fine. Anything more than that is just repetitive.
I guess
Well-
it depends on what we're going to hear about the MBTA Communities Communities
Yeah, I'm
Act.
not sure how long that'll
how
take,
long is
but-
that going to take?
Yeah, right.
I would think for an associate member interview, the maximum a half hour, and I would hope that they would forward us the talent bank forms of the people so we can have a chance
would
to
assume-
review it
yeah, I would assume
before
they'll
the
do that.
meeting.
Yeah.
And in regards to other comprehensive plan interim zoning, I don't understand how we can start that discussion.
Well, I think we should start it, it may be that we decide to continue it or we decide we don't need to continue it, but I think we should have that discussion. And assuming it can be a short discussion, it doesn't have to be, like, if people don't want to, I'm just feeling that we should have that discussion and other people feeling it, so I think we should at least broach the subject, and it may be that, we may determine, no, this is not something we're going to pursue, or we should discuss it further and we'll do it at a certain time.
At a different time.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think that's fair.
If that's the parameter of the
Yeah.
discussion,
Yeah.
that we feel like there's some things that we want to be talking about
Right.
in conjunction with the comprehensive plan going forward, but I think there's certain things that we've all said, inclusionary zoning.
I was just gonna
think
say that,
that
yeah.
is part of the comprehensive plan discussion.
Yeah.
And the zoning related to that,
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I think inclusionary zoning is important, but I think
You
it's
wanna-
part of
you're
the
gonna put it
comprehensive.
off. Okay,
Well, I think
that's
it's part
fine.
of, as we're doing the comprehensive plan, as we're looking at housing and other zoning things, I think it should be part of that, and it should go out to the community again. I don't know that we need to do inclusionary zoning now while we're getting the comprehensive plan going.
I don't think we have the resources to do
That
that.
too.
So, that's fine, but I'm just saying, that's the kind of discussion I think we should have, and if other people have brought up other issues such as the affordable housing percentages in projects and things like that, and how the planning board may be approaching certain, so I thought it'd be good to try to at least open up that discussion and have that in terms of coordination, bring up these issues. And it may be that we're saying, okay, we've got certain things we want to talk about. Or do we want to continue having this discussion, and, you know, should we schedule another meeting, that kind of thing. So if people are going to be there and say, no, we don't, I mean, that's fine with me, but I think we should kind of have the two boards kind of hear those, you know, have those viewpoints and decide what we're going to do.
Robert, if I
hopefully,
can quickly comment on the inclusionary zoning, waiting any longer than we have already is going to push this town back into the rears with respect to affordable housing ratio to get to that 10%. And the longer we delay, the more developers are going to come in and set what they want for their standard, and the planning board has no meat to say, no, we have an inclusionary zoning bylaw, and this is something that, you know, you have to follow. And
So you don't, so Joe, you don't
ahead.
want us to wait on inclusionary zoning? You want us to
Absolutely
have
not.
that discussion
I
and
think
get
we
it
waited
passed?
long enough.
all right, so
Okay.
that's,
No, I
okay,
absolutely
and so
think
I
we
think
waited
part of
long
what,
enough.
you know, so we'll try to keep this meeting, you know, I think it's gonna go more than an hour, but, I mean, hopefully not too long. But, well, Brandon, do you have some, is it a short night? I mean, I just, well, I wanna be considerate, but
Well, I just want to be clear of what we're trying to accomplish. Because what I fear will happen when you open up those kinds of conversations is that first of all, it's very circular. And second of all, if we don't have like clear things that we are trying to address, we're gonna spend an hour talking about something that has no.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, all right, so let's keep it under control.
Yeah.
I mean, in part, let's identify issues, and then what will come out of that, I think, is, should we be discussing this further, and if so, how? I mean, I think, and if the majority of the people there think it's important to continue the discussion or don't want to, that's fine with me, but I think we should just at least attempt that, and then we'll,
Okay.
and then we'll try to keep the planning board associate member position. I mean, Tricia was understanding that she just came to me today with that, because I think, that, I mean, so.
I think it's a joint appointment. I think
Yes,
It has to
so
be.
that's the question, so it's a joint appointment, if they're ready for next week, we gotta do something.
Right, of course, if
Okay.
they're ready and they can give us the information
Yes,
beforehand
okay.
so we can review it,
Right.
by all means. But if we're not getting it till the day of, it's hard to do it.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so that was my little thing about that. That probably should have been an agenda item, but anyway,
okay.
so I apologize for
And,
that.
and that'll get posted as a joint?
Presumably, yes, I think we will post it. Susan, I'll check with you tomorrow, I think, and does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, and that's all I have, so.
Motion
you
to
all.
adjourn until the 14th?
All those in favor of adjourning till the 14th?
Aye.
Aye. Joe, you're good? Okay, great, thank you. All right, we're
Hopefully see some
adjourned.
of you on Saturday at the Mendez Open House.